Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Monday Night America here on NDB. Oops, she's loopy. Sorry about that, folks. Sure enough, I would screw it up. Once again, good evening, everyone.
Welcome to the Monday Night Dance Party.
Yes, it is. Thank you. I want to give a shout out to Robert Summers Potterton III for creating that, writing that, producing it, and playing it. We thank him. That is our NDB media theme that we've had for close to 15 years, but we didn't transition over because we didn't have the ability through StreamYard. But hey, it's not about us. It is about the man of the hour. Folks, you know who he is. The man, the myth, the implacable, the indelible, dare I say, no, we're not going to do the rhyming stuff. That's Bobby Nash right there, ladies and gentlemen.
Sorry, I'm looking up implacable.
For some reason, I was, the other word was edible, but I was like, I'm not going to go with that one. But it might have come across real well. I don't know, but really good stuff, ladies and gentlemen. You see it down at the bottom, our website. Thank you, Michael Day, for working on it. Find all information on our guests, past, present, and future, right there at ndbmedia.net. Of course, you can check our schedule. There's a lot of stuff going on. Have new programs going to be starting up in the next month or so. Comics 101 is returning. As a matter of fact, Comics 101. Who knows? The host of that program might reach out to Bobby as well. They are expert when it comes to all ages in comic books, Marvel, DC, and everything else. A new sports program is going to be debuting on Tuesday in September. And we have some Star Trek specials coming up. Star Wars Andor is going to debut this Friday. The War of the Ring debuts as well. And we're going to be following that stuff. And we are just terribly jazzed and excited, but there's way too much going on. And we have a guest. We're going to announce it October 3rd. If you've seen Upload, the billionaire, I don't remember his name right now, but the billionaire in Upload is joining us, and it will be on October 3rd. I know I don't have his name. How embarrassing. But anyway, I think that's it. We got it there. Follow us, and we appreciate it. We have several people in the chat room already, folks. Let us know who you are and where you hail from. We'd love to know. And we're going to get this one going. Bobby, it has been... Oh, first of all, Bobby, thank you for spending time with us tonight, as you have every other night. It's going to be a blast. I just know it. And thank you for sharing tonight's episode as well as other episodes and liking many of other programs, Bobby. You always surprise me, pal, and I'm eternally grateful for it. As you know, I try to do the same for you as well.
Absolutely.
But you are the man. When do you not write, buddy?
Well, I sometimes manage to waste several hours a day, so doing other stuff. So it's just, it's like anything else. You just if you can't wait for it to happen, you have to make it happen. So you just kind of, and I am in a fortunate position. I mean, this is my job, so I don't have to run out to a job. I can do, this is what I do. So yeah, just like you carve out time for any other job, I have no life, so that helps.
Oh yeah, stop it. You have no life. Whatever. Oh yeah, yeah. Hey, so where's your muse? Where's your buddy right there?
My little buddy Herbie right here.
There he is. Hi, Herbie.
Yes, Herbie.
That
Herbie hangs out right here on the edge of the desk with a few friends. He's got his buddy Galactus.
oh, I
You
forgot
can't have
about Galactus.
Galactus without Ben Grimm keeping an eye on things. So
Yes.
yeah, they just kind of hang out here on the desk, and then the recent addition we've got Orko.
Oh.
And
Oh yeah.
so
I had actually forgotten
and
about that one.
and Galactus has this cool little planet that my friend Dino Hicks gave me. It's a nice, it's some kind of quartz. I'm not an expert. I don't know what it is, but it fits perfectly right under Galactus, like he's eating it.
Okay, so in respect to your friend, I think I'm going to have to ask you. You need to include that quartz in one of your next projects. Uh-oh. Did we lose Bobby? It froze.
Sorry, I lost you there for a second. What was that last part?
I was just, yeah, sorry about that. It froze for a moment. I was saying the quartz, in honor of your friend that gave you that, are
Yeah.
you going to work that into your next work right there?
You never know. You never know when those things, I mean, everything goes into an idea file. You never know when they're going to work or not work, or, when I'll look over and see it and go, hey. So, yeah, it's just one of those things. You never know. Sorry. Yes, sorry about the freezing. We've been having power outages here today, so hopefully no problems. But
Hopefully.
it has slowed things down internet-wise.
Yeah, you did mention that. So hopefully we won't have too many issues. I want to give a quick shout out to Dream, who gave us a like. Dream, you can join us whenever you like, and any of the other hosts. You guys know what's going on. But in the meantime, Bobby, I've been following you in the last year since our last interview. When Michael and I talked about booking our next guest, I was like, it's time. Got to go get Bobby. Haven't had him on in about 4 or 5 months. And then, okay, well, I'll reach out to him. I'll screw it. I don't like doing the Facebook invite, but I've known Bobby a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to ask him. And the last time there was a message, I believe it was like, anytime you want, Punk. I'm adding the Punk just for a good story. But it was you that said, hey, dude, whatever.
Yeah,
I was like, ooh, that was the last good message. Hey, Bobby, it's time. And this one took all of, 3 hours?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was really cool. But then I saw the dates on there.
Yeah, I love doing stuff like this. I love, this stuff's fun.
I am eternally grateful because you have, in the last few months, you've been on numerous programs, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, it was an odd. I had some health issues in June, July, and part of August that made me have to cancel a lot of stuff. So once I was feeling better, I started like catching up on things. So it was like a bunch of them, like one on top of the other.
And Bobby, I am glad. I think that's probably one reason why we knew. So we weren't. I mean, we were desperate to talk to someone, and we're like, "Well, let's go to Bobby." Well, no, not right now, not right now. So we were just as. I think the minute you said you got up and got out, I said, "It is time. We must contact Bobby Nash." I didn't exactly say it in that accent, but it sounds more dramatic.
Yeah, once I was able to start getting out of bed, moving around, life became so much nicer. So yeah.
Oh heck yeah! Well, I am glad, Bobby, and even throughout that time, I imagined your work product was less, but overall, you still had a big year, and you are involved in a 50th anniversary project. I interrupted you. What was that?
Well, I was gonna say no. You're right. This was. It's one of those, that Murphy's Law thing goes into, a lot. Like if this had happened last year at that time when I got, the ailments, it wouldn't have been that big an issue. But I had just within the 2 or 3 weeks prior to falling ill, signed 4 different contracts for 4 rush projects.
Oh.
So even sick, I was in bed with the laptop balanced on a pillow, with me laying on my my head, like on my on my fist on my elbow, typing with one hand because I could not blow these deadlines.
Wow.
So yeah, so even while I was sick, I was still working. Yes, I was not working as fast, and some of it in my fever-addled brain needed some reworking later. But yeah, it was I could not afford to. I worked so hard to get those gigs that it was hard. I couldn't screw it up. Um, I told everybody what was going on. All the
Yes.
publishers knew, and sorry, excuse me. It never fails. You put me in front of a microphone, I'm gonna belch. Never fails. Sorry.
You're all right,
Um,
Bobby. Hey, you know what?
yeah, I'll do it
It's
all.
all
I'll
good,
go all
buddy.
day long. Yeah,
Go ahead. Yeah.
but yeah. So so I let publishers know what was going on, and most were like, we were able to adjust some things around, but sometimes deadlines are there. They're not as movable because of if I'm late, then there's other steps in the process that can't be late. And so I was finding ways to get work done while I was sick, and I don't recommend it, but you got to do what you got to do, right?
Yes. And I get it, Bobby. This is what you've been doing your entire life. And as you mentioned, yeah, you fought for this. The opportunities are there. What are you going to do? Yeah, sorry, I'm not feeling well. Just can't do it. It's like, yeah, this is what you have fought for. That's the good thing of being on your own. And it's also the bad thing of being on your own. There's no vacation days. There's no time off. There's no coverage, for lack of a better word. But hey, that's what makes you the professional that you are and the artist.
Yeah.
But wow, we're going to get to all of it. Forgive me a moment. We're going to bring on the Almighty. I believe you remember him. And this is how respectful he is, Bobby. He came in with his name, his real name. He didn't go with the Almighty. He went with Richard. As a matter of fact, good evening, Richard. How you doing, young man?
I'm doing fine. How are you two doing?
Well, I'm
Doing
alive,
well,
buddy.
doing well.
Yes. And Richard, I did mention Comics 101, so it did pique his interest a bit. So you guys are going to have to get a hold of him. He is a comic book maven. Well, actually, he's not even a comic book maven. He is the man when it comes to that stuff. So who knows? He may be joining us.
Yeah.
Now, Richard.
Yeah, that's it. Anyway, that's a little too much, but yeah.
Oh, no, he is definitely an expert at it. He's been writing it. We're going to get into a lot of the stuff that he's been doing. But, Richard, thanks for joining us. Bobby had some power issues today, some power outages, so he's having computer issues. So it might freeze from time to time. So we're just going to work through it. But, again, Richard, thank you for joining us. Bobby, wow, 50th anniversary. Kolchak, man, you're involved in that. Tell us about it. Elegant proof thereof. Hi, Bobby. Uh-oh, we may have lost Bobby.
He's mesmerized.
Yeah. Hi, Bobby. Okay, we may have lost the sound. So,
yes.
Hey. Oh, there
he is. He woke up.
You're back, Bobby. Did you hear my question? Oh, we may have lost him again.
He's probably answering it right now. We can't hear him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm losing you guys.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bobby. Well, folks, we are having difficulty. We're having technical difficulty. Wow. Are you there, Bobby?
Yes, can you hear me?
I sure can.
Okay.
We are able to hear you. We're going to work through it. Thank God you didn't hear me stutter my way through technical difficulties. That was bad. I think I spit all over my camera, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, you probably
50th
did.
anniversary. 50th anniversary of Kolchak, man.
Kolchak
wow.
the Stalker, yes.
Yes.
It's the second Kolchak I've got to write in the last year. I did one. The publisher has the rights to Kolchak, and they were doing new stories, but it was like Kolchak in the modern day, which was interesting because he had a cell phone, which was very weird, writing Kolchak with a cell phone.
Yes.
But I co-wrote a story with Paul Kupperberg for that, where Kolchak teamed up with a character called the Phoenix, who had a short-lived show in the 80s. and by short-lived, I think it was like 4 episodes.
Oh wow.
It was
Yeah.
very short. But so we did a team up there. But then while all that was going on, they were putting together this 50th anniversary of Kolchak, and I reached out to the editor and says, "Hey, I love this character. I've written this character. I would love to be part of it." And they were like, "Great." What they're doing is setting stories within the novels and the TV show timeline. So it's the TV show is set when the TV show is set.
Yes.
So they're picking pieces from Kolchak's history. And so I was given the option to pick certain eras that hadn't been chosen yet. So I wrote a story about Kolchak's time as a war correspondent during the Vietnam War. And then Kolchak getting into all kind of weird and mystical trouble while in the jungles of Vietnam.
Wow. Talk about being out of his element when he was in the city as the program ran.
Yeah.
That is cool. So you added
Yeah,
to his
it was-
backstory.
Yeah, I spent a good bit of time researching Vietnamese folklore, which was pretty interesting. And I found some that I was like, oh, that would be cool for him to deal with. That was it. And I wrote a story and they liked it, thankfully. And so yeah, it was and I got to write my dad into it. I used some of my dad's old stories from when he was my dad was a driver back during Vietnam. And so I actually have Kolchak meet my dad at one point. Although I don't mention my dad by name, so if without me telling people, nobody would know that's who it is.
But now we know, and that is cool. So is that book or is that endeavor out yet, or when would we expect those? And we have lost Bobby. We apologize, folks. Hopefully we'll have him back in just a bit, and we'll see. So
I have put a link
There
in
he
the
is.
chat room to his other book, his other Kolchak book.
Bobby, you
Yeah.
back?
I hope so.
Yeah, I apologize.
Yeah, I think it's in October. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
I think it was in October.
I'm
That it'll be
going to
out.
be looking
so,
at that.
Yeah.
Where can you get that? Will that be on Amazon.com or will that just be through the publisher?
I'm not sure. I would assume it would be on Amazon, but I'm not 100% certain. I know they did a Kickstarter, so they did a lot of pre-orders through the Kickstarter. But
Okay.
I would not be surprised if it could be in comic shops and bookstores and all that as well. I just don't know that yet, so I don't know how that works yet. So.
As a matter of fact, folks, I did show on the page here. This is Bobby's page on Amazon.com, and it's just incredible the number of books. And we've actually gone over that, and he's added to it since we last spoke to him. So that's the one that I really wanted to ask him about. But Bobby, tell us, what else are you working on right now, which you want the audience to know about?
Well, there's always stuff going. Like I said, this has been a really busy year. There's always stuff with the Snow series or the Sheriff Myers series is in the works. We just put out, we did several of the Snow shorts this year. Recent releases, I did a story for a Zorro anthology, which was a lot of fun to write Zorro.
Wow.
I've written Domino Lady stuff. I'm always writing Domino Lady, and a couple of those came out this year. I'm doing a comedy horror series called Hunter Houston Horror Hunter, and 2 of those have come out, and there's 2 more in the pipeline. And then, so there's been just a lot of stuff like that coming out. There's a lot coming as well. Like I said, the Kolchak is coming soon. There's more Domino Lady coming. There's a Lance Star Sky Ranger novel. There's like I said, more of the Hunter Houston is coming. I'm writing several comic scripts this year. I'm doing I'm writing issues 8 and 9 of Hawk of New York, which is Randy Bishop's book. I've already written 8. I've started on 9. We're gonna he's co-plotting those with me because it's his character and he knows where he wants the story to go, and I'm scripting it putting it together from our conversation. So that's been fun. That's a very action oriented book with a little sci-fi, horror mixed in with it. So that's a lot of.
That's a lot of quiet time. Hopefully, we'll have Bobby joining us. Again, we apologize. Technical difficulties. At least I said it correctly this time. So, folks, really good stuff. If you check out his website, is Bobby Nash news.blogspot.com. That's just one of them. And of course, it's Bobby Nash .square.site. You can check that one out as well. But he's got a lot of stuff going right there. Okay, we did lose him. We'll see. Hopefully he's able to join us in a moment, and we'll see. But I'm going to go on over to his website because we're here to talk about him. And we're going to go ahead and bring him back. As a matter of fact, I went to the man's website. Where else should I go? So, Bobby.
Sorry about that.
No, not at all. You warned us, and we are getting some comments. Violent Violet. Howdy, y'all, and greetings from Idaho. Thank you, Violent Violet. So if you have any questions
Violet.
for Bobby, by all means, please.
That is an awesome name, by the way.
Yeah.
So where did I cut out at? I mentioned, did I talk about the comics yet?
Yeah, well, you were talking about how you mentioned that you were working with him on episodes 8 and 9. He knows
it's his
where
character.
the story wants to go. Yes.
Yeah, so it's his character, and he knows the story that he's wanting to tell, long term. And so we sat down, we talked it out, and then I went and wrote the script, and then we go back to him, and the two of us go over the script again together, that kind of thing. So I'm doing that. So those 2 issues are in the pipeline. I'm also writing a 4-issue super powered comic called Shank, which is about a former assassin who's trying to become a superhero.
Oh, wow.
And it's going to be a 4-issue comic series, and they're going to make next year. They're going to make a TV series out of it. So I don't know much details about the TV series yet, but I'm almost finished with the comic. And for that same company, Multi Comics is the publisher for them. I'm also doing one called Resurrection, which is a more violent, R-rated superhero murder mystery.
Oh, wow.
So that'll be so I'm doing that, and then also on the comic front, I'm doing a 6-book series for an educational publisher about fictional crimes that are set during actual historic moments. Right now we're calling it Crimes in Time. I don't know if that's the finished title they're going to use, but like the first one I did was a crime story, with fictional people, but it was set during the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. Wow. And so I wrote the story to go with that, but then I'm writing stuff for the book, real history of the event. So my research kind of still goes into the book so you can say, well, here's the fictional thing I did, and here's the real stuff that happened. So I'm doing that with a few. I've done one with that. The second one takes place during on the Titanic. Some my robbers, they're in Queensboro because the Titanic stops in Queensland for 2 hours.
Right.
They commit a robbery, and the Titanic is their getaway vehicle. They didn't plan. They didn't had that. They don't have the best of luck, but so I did that, and then there's 6 of them, and they're set during various historical moments. And the publisher picked the moments, and I just kind of went with those moments. So yeah.
So it's safe to say that they didn't get away with it.
Oh well.
Well,
I don't know.
There were survivors.
Oh,
there were survivors.
Yeah.
But
I get.
But it is fun to play with that the fictional bits, because I write a lot of crime fiction, so being able to play with that, but then it's been a nice education. I learned a lot. Like I didn't know anything about the Great Fire of Chicago,
Mhm.
except that it was a fire in Chicago.
Started by a cow.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the. There's many different
The
rumors.
myths. Yes.
I like the cow.
Apparently,
Yeah, but I like the cow theory better.
the cow, yeah, and that we play with that in the book, and because
That poor cow.
there was a guy that many years later claimed that he started it, and nobody
Oh.
believed him because they liked the cow theory better. So but yeah, so we got to play with a lot of that, and so yeah, so there's a lot of history not only of the event, but the real people, because I do write some real people into these things.
Yes.
And so you want to try to get them at least as close to right as possible.
Right.
A lot of research that I give to like the artist. If I look up what when we're going through the Titanic, here's what these rooms look like. Here's the reference I was looking at, so the artist can see what I was seeing and things like that. So that's been fun. So I've written 2 of them so far. I'm working on the 3rd one now.
And when you say you've written 2 of them, are they already available, or is it part of the
Oh,
entire
no.
project?
No.
I think there's like 6 in the project.
There'll be 6 in the project. Yeah.
Okay.
The first one is done, has gone through editing.
Is that the Titanic one?
No, the Titanic one's the second one.
Fire.
The Great Fire has gone through edits, and I believe either today or tomorrow is going to the artist for the artist to start drawing.
Do we have an internal title for that story that you may be able to reveal? Maybe not. I don't know.
I don't think so. I think I just stuck with
The Great Fire.
how I put it on the script was Crimes in Time, the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. That's the title.
That's cool.
If they want something more, we can do that. But I from the way they pitched it to me, it really is, because this publisher is primarily makes books for libraries, and so so their book titles tend to be exactly what it is. Exactly what it is. So yeah, I just kind of went with what they told me was it was going to be Crimes in Time, and went with that. So
Hey, Bobby, is there a cheesy line in the Titanic where the guy says, "Okay, we're going to use the Titanic as our escape," and then another guy says, "You better not sink us on this"?
No.
Okay.
No.
That's the Noriega way of writing. Okay.
Yeah.
We're
No.
there.
The trick that I found is when you do stuff like that, because people are expecting that. That's why I don't do. I try to play it straight. Like if these guys were in that moment, they don't know the Titanic is going to sink.
Right.
So
fair enough.
So yeah. So you don't because it's also sorry, this is not. It's going to sound insulting, and it's not meant to be.
Not
it's
at
an
all,
easy.
brother.
It's an easy line, which is why you don't do it.
And I've been told my humor is easy
Yeah.
pickings. And
But
that's
that's one of the things I do when I write. If and not just with that, with character names, or when I pitch a story to an anthology. If it comes to me easy, that tells me somebody else has already thought of it too.
Oh.
So
Okay.
like when I'm doing when I did the Zorro anthology, I have to pitch a Zorro story. The first 5 ideas that popped into my head, I was like, nope, because they came to me easy, which means somebody else probably already thought of them. So I try to find something that might be a little outside the norm, and that's worked for me.
I was looking forward to one of the robbers doing the DiCaprio scene on the. We're not going to see that at all.
No,
Okay,
no.
So
no.
Bobby, can you tell
man.
both Richard and I are McFarlane-esque humorists?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, none of that. Actually, because I had several friends of mine go, "Oh, so you're going to watch the movie for research?" And I'm like, "No, I'm going to research the real thing,
Yeah.
not the movie."
Wow.
Because
That-
the movie did what I'm doing. They're taking a real event and making up a story. So yeah, they're doing the same thing I am. So
Well, I think it's sad that someone would want you to watch that movie for research. That's the sad part. Like,
Yeah.
wait, whoa, that's fiction.
yeah. Yeah, but I had several people. That was the first thing I said. "Oh, so you're gonna watch the movie?" And I'm like, "Nope." I've seen the movie. I mean, but I'm not going to watch it for this. I did find a documentary on YouTube about the Titanic, the real history, and there was a lot of websites and various online research, and not only for the sinking of the Titanic, because we get on this boat the day before it sinks, so I need to know what the boat was like when it wasn't in danger, and what it was like in this town, because the Titanic was a big deal, and so there's celebrations in the town, and there's a lot of that. Plus, I still have to do the crime and introduce these new characters who are committing the crime. So there's a lot of moving parts. That, it's not just we're on the Titanic. We still have to get on the Titanic. So there's a lot of research in not only what would they wear, what would be going on, what was going on in that town or in the world that day. Because everybody knows what was going on when the Titanic sank, because that is well documented and well covered. And when you look up, Titanic, you get all those newspaper ads about Titanic sinks, but it's hard to find newspapers from the day before.
Oh.
Just like it's hard to find newspaper ads from the day before the Great Chicago Fire. It's hard to find newspapers from the day before the attack on Pearl Harbor. It's, those are not big days in history. So they tend to get glossed over in favor of these bigger, the major, historical event. But my stories all start before the historical event, kicks in. So I have to figure out what was going on in those places before all hell breaks loose.
Bobby, and I don't know if Richard had a question that I may have kept him from, but I was thinking of some of the stuff that you were telling me, and especially about the whole idea of Pearl Harbor and the day before. Let's look back at just 20-some years ago, September 11th. Everyone knows exactly from the first moment. It's like there is a demarcation line. It's the event, and we know everything that happened. But it's like, what happened before?
Right.
In today's age, we know what happened on September 10th, but it's kind of like that. It gets lost to history, right?
Right, because compared to the other thing, it was just a normal day.
Yes.
For most people. Now, I'm sure there are some people it was not a normal day, but, because we tend to remember. You remember where you were when one of your parents passed away, or you remember where you were when you had a car wreck. You remember those moments. They stick with you. Whereas a normal day, it's just a normal day, and you don't retain specific details. I know I went to work. What day of the week was September 11th on?
Monday.
It was Tuesday.
Was it a Tuesday?
Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday.
I know I went to work on Monday. I probably had a regular, normal day.
Yeah.
But I couldn't tell you any details.
It was my mother's birthday. On the 10th. And I do not... folks, for me, and I know we're way off topic, and I'm going to get back to Bobby just to show. My moment began, and sorry for the image, but this is exactly how it happened for me. I was exiting the shower, and KFWB was on the radio, and they said, please stand by for a bulletin. And I remember this exact moment. I had a towel, and I was drying off the left hand, and then they said, newsflash, it was 5:50 in the morning. That's 8:50 over there. It's 4 minutes after it happened. It said, we are receiving AP reports that a commercial airliner has crashed into the World Trade Center. And my first thought was, man, because I remembered World War II history, the B-17 that smacked into the Empire State Building. How bad was the weather with today's technology that happened?
Yeah.
Well, duh.
Yeah,
so I remember that moment. I don't know what I was doing before, seriously.
Yeah.
But I know.
I just remember I was at work. I know I was at work, and I didn't have a radio or anything. My office was. I worked in a warehouse. My office was a corner of the warehouse, surrounded by shelves. And I remember I got an email from a friend of mine that says, "Holy crap! Did you hear about this accident?" And that was, and by the time I had opened up the email to look at it, then we realized it wasn't an accident, that there was, it was pretty quick. So, but yeah, but in terms of looking, especially the farther back you look, people, media covers and those big events, so they're easier to find. But finding out what happened the day before, unless something else big happened on September 10th, it's harder to go back and go, what was going on the 10th,
Yeah,
So
it
so
was.
those are kind of things I play with. I do use, because these are historical things, I do use newspaper articles to kind of, I mean, I'm writing my own, but I'm basing it off articles I find of what was going on at the time. And I found that it's a very good way to, because none of these actually one of these stories is fairly, is this century, but the other 5 are all 20th century stories. So, newspapers were a great visual way of putting, like, here's the front page of the paper to get us into a scene change, or to info dump a lot of information to get us into the story, not just bogged down on the details of the actual event. And because these are events that people know, I can shorthand things. I don't have to explain how the Titanic sinks. People know. I mean, that's kind of a, it's kind of a given. So I can do it in a way that moves the story forward without going into all the details of every little thing that happened. So we can shorthand some of that because the audience knows that. And you do that with all writing. I mean, I do that with, with my regular books and stuff. If my detectives are they find a dead body, I don't have to go into super detail. I give enough detail that the readers fill in the blanks, which makes it worse, because we all have an idea from either movies or real life or TV or news what a dead body looks like. So if I say, if I explain where the body's found and how they were killed, and I don't have to go into the gory details, the readers will fill in those gaps based on their own particular knowledge. And that makes the deaths more shocking in prose than I could make them just from the story, because the reader is bringing their own thing to that. And when you do comics, your artists are bringing sensibilities as well, what they think of as what a dead body looks like, what they think of an explosion looks like, and so you get this marriage of story and art together in a comic, that's it's hard to explain, because it never looks, in all the years I've been writing comics never come in looking how they did when I wrote them in my mind. They never look how I thought they would look, but most of the time they look better because the artist is thinking more of a visual style than I am. I'm thinking of moving the story. They're thinking, this is the way we need to see it from this angle to get the most impact or whatever. And so it's a beautiful, mix of story and art that works. And I think it's the same with TV and movies. I can write a script, but the director and the actors bring it to life and add those nuances. And your artists in comics can really add those little touches that can elevate, a story. Little things that may not even be important. Like I can write, there was one writer told me once, it's like, I can write panel 1 of 6, 10,000 soldiers carrying spears come over the hill. That's panel 1 of 6. The artist then has to go, now how in the hell am I going to make that work? And come up with a way to do it, because you've still got 5 other panels to draw. So how do they interpret? Because we as writers sometimes just think, oh, they'll fix it. Or we'll just throw out whatever we're thinking, and the artist is like, wait, what? So yeah, so you have to. It's this nice, yeah.
That's when the artist just draws one big splash page of 1,000 people coming over the hill.
Yeah. Well, in the example that I gave, there was actually I forget the writer who told me this story, But he said when he got the art, there were silhouettes of soldiers with spears, and that was just it. There were like 6 of them in the panel, and because the dialogue says there's 10,000 soldiers, and
Oh,
so
yeah.
they just did this little silhouette that looked nice. And he said, so I got this and it looked great, and there was a little sticky note, because this was back when they didn't email the art, they actually sent the art, and there was a sticky note on it with him calling me a son of a you know. Yeah, so he said, if you don't like this, draw your own soldiers. So, but yeah, it's but that's where the creativity comes in. I think you get really interesting ideas because of, like I said, it's easy for me to write, all this stuff happens, but when the artist goes to draw it, they are having to think not only of how that panel is going to look, but they're thinking of the whole page.
Yes.
And you want the reader's eye to flow from panel to panel to panel in a way, that works. And so sometimes that means we have to go in and reorganize or move things around, or, I can't have a character, if the character, because we read, left to right, the first character speaking is on the left side of the panel. I can't keep changing that every time without without a camera angle change or something. So those are things that we just work out in the process. And so yeah, I'm sure I've made more than one artist cuss me.
Oh, yeah, but that's the collaboration. That is Tucker Smallwood. I'm sure you know who he is. He's been in many, many things. Famously, if you remember Contact, he was the mission control character or individual. That's Tucker Smallwood. He was in Star Trek Enterprise and many, many. But anyway, he was talking about a movie. Someone was complaining as to how it came out. He says, do you have any idea of how much of a miracle it is to have a movie, a book, whatever it is, come to fruition? And it's never going to be. Sorry, Bob. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, you're absolutely right, because
he's right.
Yeah. Well, there's so many, especially when you get to there's so many different people touching it.
Yes.
There's so many, yes, I write a novel, it's all me. But then if I'm working with a publisher, there's a publisher's going to have some thoughts. The editor's going to have thoughts. There are people involved. It's not just me. And that's good, because as much as I would like to think that every word I write is gold, I need an editor. Because we can get a little tunnel vision going, and we know in our head what we're trying to say. And so even it's that same thing of the filling in of the blanks. If I skip something in the words, I'm still filling in the blanks. So to me, it's right. Whereas the editor comes in and goes, what were you thinking here? I don't get this. And then I go back and read it and go, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. There was supposed to be, because we kind of, we're filling in a lot of the blanks. We know what's supposed to happen. So we as the creators miss the little things we forgot or we messed up. And let's face it, I mean, it takes to write a novel, it could take months in some cases. Some people take years. And, I met a woman at a convention a couple weekends ago, and she said,
a little too much information.
Oh, no. And she was like, her first book was out, and she was like, I've been working on this book for 20 years.
Wow.
And I was like, I can't imagine having to remember, something you wrote in chapter 1, and you're in chapter 20. What do you don't necessarily remember. So, because I know with me, as fast as I write, I've done that before, where I realized, wait, it can't be nighttime on the West Coast and daylight on the East Coast in the evening. That doesn't work. But you don't think about it as you're writing it. You're just thinking of that scene. And then you realize, oh, wait, this has to play with everything else. So yes, if it's dark, if it's 9 o'clock at night on the West Coast, it's not daylight on the East Coast. You have to keep those things in mind. And sometimes we lose track of that. It's like, wait, what time of the day is it? Or what day of the week is it? Or, especially if you tell a story that takes place over a protracted period of time.
But if you're writing a book, that's taken you 20 years. That means in chapter 1 you're using a landline. In chapter 20 you got a cell phone. So
Yeah.
it's like a period piece, going on. It's like time travel.
Yeah,
I'm sure the writer is able to keep track of that, but it's
Yeah.
kind of funny when you think about, well, what has come to pass in 20 years that
Yeah.
she started writing this novel.
Yeah, and little things. It's not the big things. The big things I tend to remember. It's the little things of like, wait, this character mentioned in book 1 that they had a brother. What was the brother's name? Because we haven't mentioned him in three books since then. He was just a throwaway line, and I can't remember what his name was. So I'm having to go back to book 1 and go, what was his name? Trying to find it. Because some of those things you do in the moment that are good character bits, and if you don't jot it down somewhere in the character bio, you'll forget later, especially when you start doing a series or you revisit the same characters over and over and over again.
So now I have a question to ask when I see you on a panel.
Well, I started a novel years ago that I put aside for various reasons, got busy. And when I picked it back up, 10 years had passed. And I picked it back up to start working on it. Figured I'll just pick up where I left off. And it was the same thing you said. I'm reading a thing and she puts her Walkman on to go jogging. And I'm like, okay, wait. I can't do that.
She could have got it off of eBay.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have explained it away.
Well, yeah, but it was just like, no, that's got to change. So I go through and
That's a good point. Yeah.
I started looking at things going, yeah, a lot of this stuff has got to change. Because we don't realize, it doesn't seem like things advance that quickly until you go back and look. Oh, I wrote this 10 years ago. Not much has changed in 10 years. Holy crap, a lot's changed in 10 years.
Well, look at this 10-year period. Well, I guess so you didn't want to keep it a period piece then? You wanted to update?
No. Yeah, no. Yeah, period piece. I don't want this to sound bad because I write for publishers doing a lot of period stuff. All the pulp stuff tends to be period pieces that I do for publishers. They want the books told in whatever period they were told originally. So Doc Savage happens in the 40s and 50s, that kind of thing. On the one hand, I get it. On the other hand, it's like the Kolchak thing. Kolchak wasn't originally written to be a period piece. It was just written to be now. Then, what was now then. So doing it now, making it feel like, hi, Ryan, making it feel like Kolchak has to be a period piece or Doc Savage has to be a period piece. Sometimes I think we don't have to do that. But I get it. I mean, what the publishers want to do with it is, what they want to do with it. And so you make it work. But, I think some of those things work. I was able to write, it hasn't come out yet, but a couple of years ago, I wrote there's a character called Secret Agent X, who was an old pulp character from the 40s and 50s. And I convinced the publisher that his origin with no changes could work in the modern day. And the publisher said, prove it. And so teach me to open my mouth. So I wrote a novel, with him, with Secret Agent X in the modern day. And the only thing that changed was he had a cell phone and access to the internet and earbuds. That was the change. Sorry, I saw Ryan had a question. What was it?
Yes. Of course, I jumped to greetings from Maryland. Ryan asks 2 questions. What are your plans for Snow moving forward? And would you want... Oh, come on. Of course. Would you want to see it adapted as a live action animated?
No. I'm a purist,
come
man.
on. It's,
ebooks own... No.
Just kidding, Ryan.
It's a good question. And it is a question I get asked a lot. And I do know Ryan. Ryan is a podcast hoster as well. You guys should definitely go follow him and check out his show.
Ryan, put in the... Sorry, Billy.
Yeah, put your links in, yes.
Yes, Ryan, please. Go ahead and create an entry and we'll show it up on screen, man. Don't worry about it, brother. Lots of love from this channel.
Yeah. So, I've done Ryan's show before. It's a lot of fun.
You have?
So, yes, I have. Sorry.
No, just kidding. Just kidding.
Snow, I was very... It's weird to say. I was very surprised how many people came to like the Snow books. you hope everything you write does that,
Yeah.
but you're still surprised when it happens. That a lot of people have really kind of glommed onto the characters, and so the plan is I'll do them as long as people keep buying them and reading them. Hopefully, more people will buy them and read them.
Yes.
That's always the plan. I'm working on, excuse me, I'm working on book 7 now. Um, the original intention was for it to be out in July. I had to push it aside because I picked up these comic writing gigs, and paying work tends to go in front of my personal projects because hey, I
Sure.
gotta eat. I'd like to keep the lights on, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But so yes, so Snow Book 7 is probably about halfway written. So I'm planning to do more of those. We did the Snow shorts where I had other writers and myself write short stories with characters from the Snow series, and we put out 9 of those so far.
Oh,
So
really?
that nine short stories collected into 3 paperbacks. Yeah.
All right. Let
So
me go to this real quick on my screen. So this is Snow Shorts
that's
3.
that's the third one. There's 3
So
stories.
3 stories in 3.
Yes, there's 3 stories in 1, 3 stories in 2, and 3 stories in 3. But we also released the stories originally. We released them as 99-cent short stories by themselves. So I went and I got some writer friends of mine and asked them if they would like to do a story, and they came back and said sure. And so writers who I know personally and whose work I know, they turned in some great things. Now, one of every 3 is mine. I write one of every 3, so that I'm in each of the paperbacks. I just did that because when I'm at shows selling them, it's easier for me to sell stuff if I'm in it. And so that way I'm in each of the 3. So of the 9, I've written 3 of them. But I've had the other 2 stories in each volume are uh, other writers who I know. And they didn't have to be Snow stories. They could be Snow's friends. It's like Snow doesn't even have to be in some of them. Like Gary Phillips wrote a story with Snow's friend, Big John. Or, Big John they grew up together, and Big John became a car thief and went to jail or went to prison. And when he got out of prison, he turned his life around. But something happens in this story where he kind of has to step back into that life to solve this problem. And so it's kind of a noirish, kind of very heavy story. Nicole Givens Kurtz said, I want to do a story with Snow's mom. And I was like, well, we haven't shown her yet. Well, you mentioned her. And I was like, okay. So she and I sat down and I gave her what I was thinking about for Snow's mom when she ever shows up. And so she wrote a story about his mother getting into trouble. So that was good. Brian K. Morris and Charles F. Milhouse both wrote Snow stories. Bernadette Johnson wrote one that focused on Elizabeth Walker, who was Snow's former partner when he was an undercover agent. And Mark Bosquet wrote one with FBI agent Tom McClellan, who is Snow's best friend. So they all kind of played with different characters and just kind of grew the character base a bit.
Ryan comments right before Snow is everywhere, and I love it. Buy all his books on Amazon, and right now, comments Ryan does. Snow to me is an homage to Burn Notice, and I really enjoy this book series.
There's some truth to that. Burn Notice has that feel of their standalone stories, but there's bits throughout that makes it one big story. And that's kind of how I'm playing this. If you buy one novella, you get a full story. But there's stuff going on that says, if you come back to the next book, we're going to solve this part of the problem. And then we'll deal with this, problem, problem we'll solve. And so there is a feel of that to it, which Burn Notice was good at doing. And I kind of emulate that setup. But when I was first given the idea to pitch this, because originally it was pitched to another publisher. The original pitch was that this was kind of my love letter to cop and detective shows of the 70s and 80s.
Mhm.
There's a lot of Magnum PI or the Rockford Files or those kind of things in here. That guy on his own. He's surrounded by other cool characters, but then he a lot of times has to deal with things on his own. And then the other cool characters are there, and a lot of times the surrounding characters are the reason he's in so much trouble. Like how often did Rockford's pals get him in trouble?
Oh, good God, the Rockford Files.
It's that kind of thing. And so
yes.
So I'm not emulating the way they told stories, but I'm emulating the tone of stories. I'm telling those fun. They're very action heavy. I like car chases and gunfights and punching and running and all that stuff. And so there's a lot of that in there. They're very character driven. The characters are very important, and then you put the characters through hell.
Right. There's the thing about writing. You have to make your characters pay, right? You have
Absolutely.
to hurt them.
Well, if we, as writers, we fall in love with our characters. But if I never put my characters in danger, my readers get bored and leave. So you only hurt the ones you love, right? So it's like, hi, this character I've created. Oh my God, I love you. You're like my firstborn child. I just want to hold you close. Okay, see that buzzsaw over there? Fetch. It's but you want to see how your characters survive the hell you put them through, and hopefully they come out of it stronger characters, or you kill them. I mean, I've certainly whacked my share of characters.
Yes.
Sometimes to the detriment of long-term plans I had.
Ooh.
There's one I won't do a spoiler of which book it was, but there was one book of one of my series where I had a plan for this character who would show back up a few books down the line. And I was at the end of one book, and so we've wrapped up the main story, and I always put like an epilogue that leads you into the next book.
Yes.
So if you want to come back, here's a tease of where we're going. And as I'm writing it, I've learned very early to trust my characters. My characters will get me where I need to go. And so I'm following along this character, and she stumbles across the dead body of the guy I was expecting to use later. And I'm like, well, crap, he's the villain that's supposed to be the villain for the next 3 or 4 books. But it works. It works for the story. It's a twist that even I didn't see coming. So obviously the audience won't see it coming. But then I'm like, so what do I do now? But what happened was, this is where trusting the characters came in. I had a secondary character who I had no real plans for outside of their original appearance. There was really nothing more I planned to do with them. And that character goes, by the way, I did that. I killed him. And here's why. And so once I realized that character became an infinitely better villain than the one I killed off. So trusting the characters gave me a better story. So
I was about to ask, would you go into a little bit for the rest of the audience what you mean by, it's obvious, but trusting the character?
Sure.
Because we're like, wait a minute, but you're writing the character. So
okay,
explain that. Yes.
My characters are infinitely smarter than I am. They are smarter than me. But what I mean is, when you create a character, and I try to do this with every character, even like I said, even this secondary character who only was originally going to appear in the opening of one book, wasn't even going to be a major player. I still got to know that character so that they become real people in my head. Real people have real quirks. Real people make real decisions. I'll give you an aside here to explain something before I get back to that. I did this class once. This is a great example of trusting your characters. Set up a very simple plot where a character walks into a deserted house. there is a locked door. They need to get on the other side of that door. That's your basic plot. They know there's danger on the other side of that door. Something bad is on the other side of that door. That's your setup. Simple setup. Now, pick 3 characters. They don't even have to be yours. They can be characters from TV, movies, books you've read. You could pick, I think I picked Captain America, MacGyver, and like Magnum PI or something. Those are 3 very distinct characters that have distinct character traits and do things differently. Each of them would approach that problem differently. And how they approach that problem gives you 3 very different stories from the same plot. And so knowing that, that's when you trust your character. My character would absolutely kick the door down. Okay, that's what we'll do. But if this is a character that we've seen thinks before they act, Abraham Snow tends to leap before he looks. So Snow would absolutely kick the door down and go barreling through. This is something I've set up in the books. He's done it a number of times. It quite often gets him into trouble, but he has not learned his lesson yet. He continues to act before he thinks. Pick another one of my characters. Agent Palmer from the Evil Ways books. He's a thinker. He's not the man that's quick to be an action hero. He's a thinker. So he would not go kick the door down. He would try something else, or would go, we need to get more people in here, and so we can cover the door before we pick the lock. And so knowing that, your characters and how they would react to it. It's the same thing as when you watch a TV show or a movie with characters you've seen before. Have you ever watched something and go, man, they're acting out a character? I don't think they would do that. I've watched this show for years. I don't think Captain Kirk would do that, because you've gotten to know Captain Kirk from watching Star Trek. What happens is when they're acting out of the character, it's because the writer has forced them to do something that they don't want to do. If I forced Agent Palmer to kick down that door, sorry, I'm pointing to my door like you guys can see it.
It's all good.
If I made Agent Palmer kick down that door, the readers are going to go, but that's not what he would do, because they're used to him doing things differently. So that's where trusting your characters come in for me. I get to know them. So I know them like real people. And it's just, I need you to get me to this point. How do we get there? And I follow and see what they do. They don't always do things that make my life easier. This leap before you look attitude of Snow's has written me into some corners that I've had to be clever to get out of, because that's just what he would do. He's not he's not going to sit back and go, well, let me think about this a minute. What should I do? He's like, he sees the bad guy over there and he takes off running. So trusting your characters means you know them so well as you would any normal person. As your brother, your sister, your wife, your best friend. How they act. So when those people are acting out of character, something's wrong. So if I ever have characters acting out of character on purpose, then there's a reason for that too. So that's where it comes in. That's where the trusting the characters comes in. Is I've created them fully enough that they will tell me what they will and will not do. And that also gives me moments where twists happen. Like I said, the one where a character dies. I did another one. It was a very straightforward short story for an anthology. Good guy, bad guy. Here's the setup. Blah, 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 blah. We're going all the way through it. We get to the very end, and the hero and villain meet for the first time face to face. And the hero is like, I know what you did. You're not going to get away with it. And as I'm typing, out of my fingers comes dialogue from the villain that made me realize he's not the villain. And as I'm writing it, the dialogue between them, I'm like, he's not the bad guy. So at that point, my hero realizes, wait, you didn't do this, did you? And And it's like, no, I did. So this is voice off. And so here's this big twist now that I was like, ooh, I like that. It's a better ending, anyways. This was a pretty straightforward ending. Now I've got this twist, and I like it. Okay, let me go back and plant clues because I like to play fair. If there's a twist coming, I want you to be able to go, aha, I remember when he wrote that. So I go back to plant clues and was very surprised to find that the clues were already there. That the character had been seen through their dialogue and actions. Those clues were being subconsciously seeded by me through the story without conscious me realizing it.
Dude, that is wow.
And that's where trusting the characters comes in, because the character is doing what they do. And and like I said, they're smarter than me. I didn't pick up on it until later, but subconsciously, I had figured out something that consciously wasn't there yet. But if I'd have figured it out, if I had known when I was doing it, I might have written it different. But I wrote it up to the twist without the twist being blatant. Had I known the twist was coming, I might have, what you did, I might have put those nudge, nudge, wink, wink, comments in there. And it works better without those. So, yeah. So in those, that's where those cases work, where the characters know what they're doing, and it's really, I'm just following them around, writing down what they do.
I want to 2 points real quick. Randy Landers gave us a little bit of love, our first like for the episode tonight, and he sent me a message because I sent him a link. He says, "Oh, sorry, he's editing tonight, trying to get our next Caliborn finished, and we're hoping to get started in a few months on a film Bobby wrote for us."
Oh,
Very
yes,
excited.
yes. I did.
Yes.
I did a couple of years ago. I guess it's been a couple of years ago now, maybe longer. Time, this whole pandemic thing, time has become this odd thing that just seems. I feel like a time traveler. It does not. There are times where it doesn't feel like it's been this many years, and there are other times where it feels like it's been twice as long.
Yes.
And so I keep saying I did this last year, and I realized, oh shit, that was 3 years ago. But I wrote this one for Randy. I visited the set, his sets when he was in Alabama, and we were both at a convention in Alabama at the library, and I didn't know Randy at the time. Michael Day set up for us to meet each other, and so he's like, "Yeah, Randy said he'd be happy to give you a tour of the sets." And I'm like, "Awesome, okay." I love touring, sets. That's cool. And in my head, I'm like, they're going to ask me to write something, and I don't have time. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to let them talk me into it. It's not going to happen. So Randy and I, we go over to the sets, and we're walking through the sets, and he's pointing out things, and we're talking. We're just talking Star Trek in general and movie making in general, and we're talking about the sets and what they're doing and what shows they were doing. And because they were doing the hospital ship. And I thought, as we're talking, I'm sitting there, and he's just talking about how they're doing these little 10-minute little vignette things. And as we're sitting there, I'm like, good gravy, I've got an idea. And so the idea hit me sitting there. I'm sitting at the helm. We're just chit chatting, and I'm leaning on the helm, and surrounded by it. The idea hit me. And it wasn't an overly original idea. Basically, I took a MASH episode, a MASH plot, and figured I'm going to do this MASH plot on a planet. And so I went and wrote that, and that was a ton of fun. I don't think they're VFX guys like me, because I made them do a lot of visual effects. There's like a big spaceship battle between two armadas. And I was like, just put it on the monitors. We can just see blips. But no, they went all out and just kind of, did it. And it was so much fun. And then after that was done, I had, I dreamt this next story. And I woke up one morning and it's like, ooh, I need to go write this down. It was very character focused story about one of the characters on the ship. And so I wrote it, and as these things take time, and they've moved to Kentucky now where they have sets, and so some of the people from Alabama are not going to Kentucky to film, and pandemic, and so we adjusted it for a different character. So I'm excited to hear it's gonna start soon, because it was a fun, very Star Trekky plot to write.
I'm definitely looking forward to that one, and hopefully we can twist Randy's arm. We can have a debut here, and we can have you talk about it. And who knows, maybe get some casting characters. I know Randy wants to do it, but he's busy and stuff. But
well, it happens.
Oh yeah,
we get really into it. And I know I didn't answer the question either. I think Snow would work as a live action better than animated. I think it could work. I mean, it would just depend on who did it. But in my head, yeah, they're real breathing, living people. And
any plans for future Domino Lady stories?
There are Domino Lady stories in the pipe. I wrote 3 shorts with Domino Lady teaming up with a character called Judgment, who was created by my buddy C.J. Henderson, who is sadly no longer with us. And so the publisher, you have to keep using characters to keep your copyrights and all that up.
Right.
So the publisher came to me and says, "Hey, would you like to do?" They're doing this series of books. Actually, I have one close. I didn't plan ahead. I didn't set a stack of books here, but I had this one that just came in the mail. They're doing these double and triple threats that'll have either 2 or 3 stories in them. And so they asked me if I would like to do Domino Lady teaming up with Judgment in 3 stories. And they're 3 standalone stories, but they're kind of like the Snow. They're connected in a way that I think they're talking about later collecting them all in one book. And so 2 of those are out. So there's one more coming. I also wrote a 5-part Domino Lady comic script. It's 5 8-page comics that'll run like that and then be collected as well. So I've done that, and then there's another couple of Domino Lady things in the pipe, but nothing nailed down yet. So, but I love the character. She's absolutely a fantastic character to write. I love playing with her adventures, and so whenever Moonstone says, "Hey, you want to write something Domino Lady?" I'm like, "Sure."
Yeah.
Because she is fun. I do enjoy writing her. I've probably written her more than anybody else. I guess. And but she's fun. I love the playful, flirty nature. Again, that's one, like Richard was asking earlier, that's one of those period pieces, because they've kept her in that 1930s era that she was brought up in. So, but it is fun playing with that 1930s Hollywood crime kind of backdrop. So there is some fun to be had doing that. So.
Oh heck yeah.
So she's fun. Any other classic pulp characters? Oh man. Well, I've written so many at this point. I've written the Spider. I've written the Avenger. I've written, Secret Agent X and the Black Bat and blah. I mean, there's a lot of them. I've written a lot of them. There's a couple of biggies I have not been able to do. Like, I've not written the Shadow. The Shadow could be fun. I've not written Doc Savage. I think Doc could be fun. So yeah, I mean, there's still some out there I've not played with, but I've written a lot of them, and so I've written most of the ones that, when I look at them and go, oh, that's a cool one. Yeah, let me write that. And Zorro, obviously Zorro, recently, because Zorro started out in the magazines.
Yeah.
And then I got to write a Lone Ranger story that hasn't come out yet, so that was fun. The Lone Ranger kind of started out, I think he was more of a radio. He started in radio before he went to books and TV. I think that's right. Kind of like the Green Hornet, because they're connected.
Right.
And I had to get to write the Green Hornet as well. So yeah, so those are fun. I do occasionally write, there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of those pre-existing characters from the old days that are out there. And I write those when I get the opportunity. I've got one that hasn't been announced yet. That was it was taking an old comic book character, an old public domain comic book character, who is very pulpy in style, and then putting that character's adventure in a public domain world that's fairly well known. How's that for non-spoilery? So the
No,
publisher
but
hadn't announced it yet, so I can't say it.
okay,
But it's
and that's cool. But we can look out for that.
yeah,
And hey, it wouldn't be too difficult to figure out of which ones have.
right. Because the title of it is going to be "Character in Place,"
Okay,
and
yeah.
so when you see it, it's going to be it's going to be pretty obvious what it is. But then there's also the new pulp stuff, where there are newer characters that are in that pulp vein that are being created. And I've written some of those. Actually, just yesterday, I finished a short story for an anthology of a pulp teen for James Palmer. So I did that, and recently had I wrote a Captain Hawkland short story called Smuggler's Run for Charles Millhouse, this character Captain Hawkland, which is very much a new pulp character. Last year, I also wrote one because he's a pulp aviator type character, and I have Lance Starr, which is a pulp aviator character. And so for Pulp Reality #1 magazine, I pitched the idea to Charles that they team up or they meet for the first time. And so I wrote a story where they met and had an adventure together. And for this year, for #4, which comes out later this year, Charles is writing a story where they meet again and have another adventure. So that way we both kind of got a shot at writing their team up.
Oh.
So yeah, so there's always fun stuff like that, and there's a lot of stuff too that is out there that either just I haven't thought of. Like I got to adapt an Edgar Rice Burroughs novel into a comic a few years back. That was fun. Or there's always
Edgar Rice Burroughs, really?
Yeah, the At the Earth's Core novel.
Okay.
Jamie Chase and I adapted that into a graphic novel, and that was a lot of fun. And it was fun to play in that world. Burroughs Inc. is currently kind of like in how Marvel took control of all their stuff.
Yes.
The Burroughs people have done so as well, and they're releasing new novels and stuff that are all like fully licensed and covered, in their in-house. And I believe they're doing film and whatever projects where they're keeping a tighter rein on it so they can kind of make them fit. It's not this person's version of it; it's the version of it, that kind of thing. So those would be fun. It would be fun to revisit those. I don't know if ever we'll get to, but they could be fun to revisit.
I'm going to have a question on that in a little bit, but before I go over to Richard, when we were talking about trusting your characters, and you mentioned Star Trek on Kirk on what he would do and wouldn't do, my biggest beef is the reboot of Star Trek, the 2009 movie, Spock. How Spock just rolled over and didn't try to reset the timeline. We know that he would have given his life to reset the timeline, and he doesn't try to do it. Yeah. That is the one thing that just obviously they did not trust their characters.
Right. It's one thing, yeah.
Or they didn't even know them.
Yeah. This is the thing we want to have happen. We're going to make it happen. And your characters will fight against it. It will feel wrong, but it, and it happens. I mean, but those, again, that's one of those things. And with working with media tie and stuff, I can't tell any Lone Ranger story I want to. There are still people that own that. I have to do what they want, Yeah. And it's the same thing with Star Trek or whatever. If you're doing it, for Paramount or CBS, they have a say in what they want to happen. And their decisions are not always based on creative reasons, because Star Trek is a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Yes.
There's a lot of money running on it. So decisions are made a lot of times not because of, I have this great idea. It's, okay, we need toys. We need to actually, I'll give you a better example of it than Star Trek. Let's go back to G.I. Joe or Transformers. which are owned by Hasbro. The only reason that G.I. Joe cartoons and comics existed were to convince people, or advertisements to sell toys. Transformers were the same way. And so I know guys who worked on those cartoons back in the 80s. And, I kind of jokingly said, okay, so you've got this G.I. Joe episode that takes place in the jungle. Why did you have the guy in the snowsuit there? And he was like, well, we get a list from Hasbro that says these people have to be in this episode. And they're like, but we're in the jungle. And they're like, he's got to be in that episode. And so that's what you use. So the creative people have to find ways to make that work.
Yes.
The reason Optimus Prime dies in the original cartoon, sorry, spoiler for a 35-year-old movie, but the reason that Optimus Prime dies is because they were thinking, okay, everybody that's going to buy these has bought Optimus Prime. We need to just buy something new. So we need a new leader of the Autobots. They'll buy him. Work that into the movie, We need a girl Transformer. Put one of those in the movie. We need we need this, or we need, we're going to weed out these guys. We're going to stop making these guys because they don't sell as well. It doesn't matter if they're popular in the cartoon or not. They just don't sell well. So we need new ones. So get rid of these guys, put these guys. So there's a lot of decisions that happen because of that. And that's just the nature of the business, good or bad. I mean, it'd be great if we could just tell stories to tell them.
Right.
But that's not the world we live in. And even when you get up to places like we mentioned Marvel earlier, yes, Marvel is telling the stories they want to tell, but they still have to think about things like there's going to be toys, there's going to be shirts, there's going to be bed sheets, there's going to be whatever. What do we do? How do we do this in a way that makes that work? Star Trek, same way. Star Trek is, there's toys, there's the play sets, there's the ships, the models, you name it. They're out there. They're collectibles everywhere. Thank you. That was the word I couldn't make my head wrap around. So there's a lot of that, and they're not thinking it for all of them, but it does make an impact at time. It's like, look at Star Wars. I mean, Star Wars is all about selling toys. That's why we're on an ice planet, then we're on a cloud city, then we're on a desert planet, because those are different play sets. And George Lucas made a lot of his decisions based on how to do toys.
I have to tell you though, I grew up in that time, and those play sets, those toys, there were some one-shot failures, but those toys were sophisticated and they were detailed. They worked. It wasn't just a simple little toy. There was, look at the Millennium Falcon, the inside of it, the detail. You had the control panels drawn in. It was obvious little touches like that made it stand out.
Well, as a kid, I didn't realize that's what they were doing in any of it.
Oh, I didn't either.
I didn't realize they were trying to sell me stuff. I begged and pleaded with my mom to buy it for me, but I did not realize that, that there was a direct connection with them. That we're going to create a new Transformer. We're giving you new GI Joes because we have new toys. That never occurred to me as a kid. Now as an adult, I get what they're doing, but as a kid, I did not realize how much they were huckstering me.
Oh, yeah.
But it's still part of the fun. But when you do stuff that you don't own, you have to know that going in. I know if I ever get the chance to write Spider-Man, I'm not going to write whatever Spider-Man I want. There's going to be Marvel's going to say you can do this, this, and this, or you can't do this, this, and this. That's just their job is protecting Spider-Man to a smaller degree. Zorro. There were do's and don'ts. You can't do this. Zorro can't lose an arm.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I can't kill his father, or, there's a lot of do's and don'ts because Zorro Inc., who owns the character, Their job is to protect the characters, protect the property, protect the IP, And so, because I meet people all the time who I hear this a lot from people who want to write, who are not professional yet and then want to be. I hear this a lot of time. It's like, yep, man, I hate the way they write Spider-Man. If I ever get to write Spider-Man, here's what I'm going to do. And I'm like, I hate to burst your bubble, but this is, it is a business. What is it? Keith David years ago said the line that stuck with me was, it's not called show, it's called show business. And business is a very big part of the business of the word. And it is so you have to know, and I think that helps too. Knowing that helps me get more work writing characters that I didn't create, because I've done it enough now. They know I'm not going to go in. You don't have to tell me you can't kill Spider-Man.
Right.
There are some instances where you can get away with things. Like if I wrote a Star Trek, novel, I could probably kill Spock as long as I brought him back by the end of the book.
Right.
Because that has happened. There's a precedent in the show for that to happen. You can't, my friend Sean Taylor told me this one years ago that stuck with me. It's like this. We put this in we did a book called The Ruby Files, which was a detective set in the 1940s and 50s. And we were writing the Bible for other writers. And Sean put in there, don't blow up Cleveland. We might need it later.
What for?
Yeah, well, but that was just like, don't change anything that changes the world.
Okay, Richard. Bobby doesn't know the connection.
Yeah. No, but
he's Ohio right there.
I got you.
It's like, why?
Yeah, but it was basically their way of saying, you're not here to make big sweeping changes to the world. We're telling the stories about these characters. Yes, you can't nuke Manhattan in your story because, we might need that in the next book,
Yeah. Bobby, I remember reading the script guidelines for The Next Generation, and it was something similar. It was very clear. That's when Michael Piller had opened up the thing to everyone, and I may have the script guidelines somewhere around here.
My favorite was no space vampires.
Oh my goodness, I forgot about that one. Yes, and no messages like from Alien, whatever.
Yeah, and I think the last one was no matter how much you love him, Ricardo Montalban is not going to reprise Khan in The Next Generation. That was in there somewhere. Yeah.
There was no Jack Crusher stories.
Yeah.
It was interesting, and the whole thing that Michael Piller had done was, what is the story about, and how do our characters grow from it? That's a very simple yet complex point, because he made it about the characters.
Well, also, if you're a guest writer, and this is how I approached the fan films I wrote as well.
Yes.
If you're a guest writer, you're there to write a story that begins and ends, and you've not changed anything permanently. Like I said, I can kill Spock, but at the end of the episode, he needs to be standing on the bridge with Kirk and McCoy as the Enterprise goes to warp. All your toys have to be back how you found them. If they're going to when they tell a story like Best of Both Worlds, it irrevocably changes Jean-Luc Picard. Yes. That is going to be told by the staff. That is not going to be told by a guest writer that comes in. My job is I'm not telling the earth-shattering story that's going to change the lives of our crew forever. I'm there to tell this story. The people that are there, that are on staff, the main writers, in some cases, the people that create them in terms of books and stuff, they're the ones that are going to do the life-altering moments of characters. That's not my job. So knowing that, I don't go in trying to do that. When I approached the fan films, it was not like when I wrote the Farragut story, I said, I have an idea for a story. And it was just, okay, we detect something, we go down, we get into some trouble, we get out of it, and we go on to the next mission. I wasn't trying to, okay, this is going to be a sequel to this, or I want, now I did kill a character, although that wasn't in my original story. In the original story, I didn't kill anybody. They came to me and says, "Hey, we want you to kill somebody." So,
yeah, that's different when they tell you. Well,
but
that's elegant proof. The
yeah.
powers that be tell you to.
Right. And actually, it was so funny. It was like, I guess it's been long enough. I can say who now. I remember we were at a convention. I want to say it was Con Carolinas. It could be somewhere else. But Michael Bednar came up to me and goes, we're working on, editing the script you sent us. We're going to make a few changes. How would you like to kill me? And I was like, what? He says, no, my character needs to die. How would you do it? What do you want to do? How should we do it? And so that started the process of this bit of a subplot about him being killed. Because at that point he was done. That was going to be his last episode.
Right.
And then something happened between then and getting to it. So they're like, okay, he decided he's going to do another one. So now we have to unkill him. We like the killing him, but now we have to unkill him. So at the end of the episode, he's on the bridge. So there was, but it made for a good bit to the story because so much of that episode happens in the captain's head that it's all, while he's strapped into that machine, that seeing that, his friend die helps propel him deeper into the illusion that the story's telling. And it was one of those things too, I talked to several people. It's like, oh, please, we all knew that was an illusion. I was like, well, yeah, but if you watch regular Star Trek, it's an illusion, but if they catch a disease of the week, they're going to fix it. It's not about that. It's about what the characters do, and having the captain go through this bit of losing his best friend and his first officer. And the fact that the clues are there that it's fake, like the fact that the chief engineer, she does not break down quite as bad. And they were in a relationship, well, actually the actors are married, but the characters are in a relationship. And the fact that we didn't have her break down was a clue, because I had several people go, why wouldn't she be as upset? And I was like, well, that's a clue. That's a clue that something's wrong. Someone is acting out of character. Wow. See how I tied that back into the earlier question?
Yep. Oh,
I didn't plan that, but see, she was acting out of character because the viewers knew that's not how she would respond. So things like that. And so that's where trust, again, the trust comes in, is like, would they do that? Or, how would they respond to that? So that stuff's fun to play. And it was fun to see the actors play that as well. Cause I was unable to be there when they filmed. So I didn't get to talk to them much about the story. I mean, we talked a bit on the phone, in the early days of putting it together, but there wasn't a whole lot of talk with them about what I was thinking, what I felt they were feeling, or anything like that. Just what was on the script. So when I saw the episode and saw how they portrayed things, it was really cool to see how they interpreted, how I wrote it. And that was always interesting.
As a matter of fact, that episode was directed by,
well, we had two directors. Vic started it. Vic Mignogna started it, and then, I am blanking on his name. Oh crap.
Yeah, I'm not going to remember. I was just thinking of Vic.
Yeah. Right. Well, because Vic had to go to a con, and had to leave. He was in a different state or a different country, and so it wasn't quite done. So, I'm blanking on his name. I'm so sorry about that. Came in and finished it, and so all the stuff that happened, I think, on the planet, all that, I think Vic did. All the stuff that was on the ship was the other gentleman, and I'm terribly sorry I can't remember his name.
Do you remember the name of the episode? Was it The Crossing?
Conspiracy?
Conspiracy of Innocence. I apologize. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
That was in 2014. Jack Marshall.
Jack Marshall. Thank you. And so, yeah, because because if memory serves, they filmed all the non-ship stuff first. Then they filmed on the ship last. So I think Jack did all the stuff that was on the ship, or most of it. So I know there was, I don't know who did exactly what, but I think that's how it all worked out. So, but it was very cool to see how everybody interpreted, because again, just like with the comics, it didn't look how it looked in my head when I wrote it, but it turned out great. And I remember just being enraptured by the episode. You know, there was a couple of things that changed from my script, but that's again the nature of television. I thought the young girl actor, well, actually, both kid actors were fantastic.
Yes.
Actually, I got to meet them. They had already filmed it, but none of us had seen it yet. And we were down at the sets because they would do Farragut Fest. They had the open house, and the three of us happened to be there. And I remember, Michael and John kind of grabbed us all and says, "Hey, you guys want to see a rough cut?" And so we all went. It's so funny. We all went into a closet and closed the door, turned out all the lights in the closet, and we're sitting there in chairs just around a laptop, and we watched the episode. It wasn't finished yet, but we watched the episode, and the kids were absolutely fantastic. I thought that they projected just the right amount of creepy that I was going for in the script, and I thought they were just perfect. And yeah, it looked great. I mean, the sets always look great. The way they shot it looked great, and just yeah, it was fun. I it's one of those things. I did it. I've probably said this before on here. I wrote the episode just to see if I could do it. I'd never written. I had attempted it before, but I had never really finished a script. I'm not good at doing things unless I have a reason to do them. And so sitting down just to write a script for the heck of it, to see if I can do it, there's a part of my brain screaming, "Dude, you got books to write. You can't do this. You've got this to do." But because I met them at a convention. I met Michael Day and John. We were across the aisle from each other at a convention. I believe that was Con Carolinas too. And so we were just across the hallway, but they had I think they had 2 episodes or the vignettes, 1 full episode and a couple of cartoons that ran on a loop all weekend, right across from me, all weekend. I kind of joked about them about this. It's like by the time I went home, I knew your characters pretty well. But I remember on the last day of the con, and we had just chatted back and forth during the slow bits. And I remember on the last day of con, I walked over to Michael Day and I says, "I have an idea for a story." And he's like, "Great, write it up, send it in, we'll look at it." Yeah. And it was really, that was it. It's like, okay, now I have a reason to do it. And so from there, I went home and sat down and hammered it out pretty quickly. I think it took me 2 or 3 weeks maybe to hammer it out.
Yeah.
And
that's
then
quick
for a script. Well, I had deadlines coming, so there was no time to dilly or dally. It was get it done. And so I did. I got it done, got it sent off to them. And it took a little while, and then they had other stuff to do. And so when they got ready to it, John called me and we went over, bits and pieces and hammered it into shape. There were some things that they wanted to have. Like I had Klingons in the episode, and they were like, "We have a Romulan bridge. We have Romulan outfits. Let's make it Romulans." And I'm like, okay, that kind of thing. There's things that happen for budgetary reasons, or you can't blow up this planet. You can't blow up Planet Cleveland.
Right. In that episode, you received screenplay and story by credit.
Mm-hmm.
And then John and Victoria Avalon had additional written material. That was it.
Yeah, because they like I said, they did a couple of things. It was
your story and your screenplay.
Yeah, because there's a bit at the beginning where they're getting ready to beam down to the planet, and there's all that stuff in the transporter room. I didn't have anything to do with any of that. It works. It's great character stuff, but it's something that I guess they needed more time. They had it, they filmed it in a way that they needed to fill some more time. So I know they wrote that sequence, I think, the day. We need something to do. And it worked because it does set up, oh, there might be something with the transporter. Maybe that's why this happens, or and so there was a lot of that. And they also came back to me with questions about the special effects guys. It's like, what does the planet need to look like? Or, they were asking those type of questions. And I had some specific notes on things like, because they are, again, spoiler alert, sorry, because they are kids, but we see them as adults. I wanted everything to kind of look off. So, like, if you notice when Atlan Gray comes in to interrogate Captain Carter is in the cell, and he comes up to the door, and the force field's on. I wanted it to be, and I don't know if this comes across as well in the episode, but I wanted it to be, whereas you or I as adults, we reach out and push the button, it's right at that level. But because these are kids, they're used to reaching up to turn things off. So I wanted it to be the off button to be up here. It's kind of a clue. And I don't think that happened, so stuff like that. But again, it's one of those things that's so subtle, even if it had been up there, it may not have been enough of a clue to, of what I was planning.
Right.
But it works. Like I said, I'm very happy with it. It was one of the cool moments of my life. We went down to the sets. A buddy and I drove down to the sets, and it's a good 5-6 hour drive.
Right. It was in Georgia at the time, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I'm in North Georgia, and it's
Oh.
down like at the Florida Georgia line, and so I think it takes almost 6 hours to get there. And so they were doing the premiere at the sets. They were going to show it, on the big screen in the room, and had a bunch of guests. There was a lot. I don't know exactly how many people were there. There was a lot. But a buddy of mine and I drove down, drove the 6 hours down, hung out with everybody, kind of toured around the sets a bit, watched the episode, and then drove home. It was a long day. But we're sitting there, and at this point, all I've seen is some cut scenes. I had not seen it put together. I had not seen it with finished effects or any of that. And so we're sitting there, and they get up and they talk a little bit, and we're in the audience, and they're like, okay, and now, without further ado, and they start playing it, and it does the opening teaser, and then we go into the shots of the opening credits, and it comes out of that into the ship flying toward the screen, passing by. And as it does it, it throws my name up there. And my buddy goes, "That's pretty cool, huh?" And I was like, "You kidding? I could go home right now. I'm good." And so, yeah, it was a cool moment. And yeah, I loved it. It was fun.
Oh, I bet it's absolutely awesome. I think my jaw dropped. Forgive me, folks. I had to pay for mine, but I actually went to Star Trek: The Experience on when August 10th, 1990. That was my day. That's correct. That was a Friday. It wasn't a Friday, but I'll have to remember the date. Anyway, I'm in the episode. I was chosen. I told my buddy Joe, "Don't leave, dude. They're gonna pick me. They're gonna pick," and they picked me. I was the guy trying to go through I was on the bridge. I was the guy trying to go to the turbo lift. For those of you that have seen Star Trek: The Experience, that was me. And at the very end, when they put our names in the credits, and I'm up there, it says Roger Noriega, I'm like, oh! I could just die. And I have it on video, but it's VHS. So I've not done the transition yet. But it's one of my prized items. I have it somewhere right here in the office. I hear you, Billy.
Yeah,
Bobby, sorry. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I've been called worse.
I saw something right now that said Billy.
Yeah, I don't know where mine is, but we went when they did that thing at Universal Studios in Florida, where you could be on. They filmed you on the bridge, and
yeah, it was Star Trek: The Experience.
Was that what it was? So, yeah, and so we were, because my brother and I did it, and I wish I still had it, and because God knows where it ended up. But we do that thing where we're sitting there, and then when you watch it, Shatner and Nimoy are sitting next to you, and then we go. I got to play the captain, so we're on the bridge, and it was just
so
exciting.
the captain. Oh wow.
Yeah, so it was fun. So I was the captain, and he was Spock, and it was it was a lot of fun. It was
Oh, you know what? I believe there was a different version in Florida than the
Yeah.
one over here in Hollywood.
yeah, because this one was mostly blue screen stuff. It was because, like I said, we sit in these chairs. It's just my brother and I and the director person that's directing us to tell
Yeah.
us where to sit, and because we had to keep our arms a certain on your arms had to be
Right.
on the chair arms, because in the video, Kurt, Shatner and Nimoy are sitting next to us, and they're saying something like, it's the most important person on the show is the captain, and Shatner reaches over and puts his hand on top of my arm.
Right.
And if you were off, it looked like they were, and so yeah, it was a fun bit. I mean, but it was my first time ever playing with blue screen, because it was blue screen back then. That was before green screen, and
Yep.
it was a unique experience. But that pales in comparison to walking onto those sets in Kingsland for the first time, and they were lit too, so that gives it even more of the illusion.
Yes.
Because all the colored lights are there. And they knew it was my first time going, so I walk up to the door, and from the outside, it's just plywood. There's nothing fancy about the outside of the sets. But they knew it was my first time going, and so I believe it was Michael Day that said, "Get real close." And so I'm like this close to half an inch maybe from the door, and the turbolift door opens, and I was immersed, because unless you look straight up, you can't see out of the set, because they have the big red beams at the top. So unless you look up, you're on the corridor of the Enterprise.
Yeah, and it is tall enough or high enough that you can lose yourself. I was there in December of last year.
Yeah, we did one of the Farragut Fest, and I took some buddies with me, and my buddy Mark went with us, and he's a lifelong Star Trek fan, and we kind of we're all doing whatever, and I had stepped outside for something, and I come back in, and Mark and a few other people were standing in the corridor talking as I came back in, and I just walked past them, and Mark made this like, holy crap, it's like, what's the matter? And he goes like, I just had this really weird out of body experience. Why is Bobby Nash on my TV? Oh wait, that's it's like I saw you walk past the colored lights on the wall, and it was so jarring, because I don't think of you being on the Enterprise, and he was so immersed in the experience that it took him out of it, seeing me there in my regular clothes. So but it was it's a fun experience. If anyone, I always tell people, if you can get down there to visit the sets, it is well worth the trip. It is a fantastic experience.
It is. It's the Neutral Zone Studios. You can look it up. I'll see if I can find a link for it in a little bit. I was fortunate. I met Michael Day down there. He invited me to go down, and we spent 2 days down there. I took my youngest with me, and going down to Florida in December was interesting. And just crossed the border to Georgia. It was
because it's like 3 miles. Yeah, it's like 3 miles over the Georgia-Florida line. So
it's real easy to get there. It was nice. I would love to go again.
Yeah, my biggest regret of doing all of the 3 that I've written, I did not get to be there for the filming of any of them.
Oh yeah.
And that is, I do regret that. I wish I could have been there at least for a little bit, but there's always something getting in the way, and that I, for whatever reasons, couldn't make it. And that's my one big regret, was not being there to see them do it. And so some of the people that have been in them I've never met. A few I have, doing conventions and whatnot. I've met a few. But because I wrote the Farragut one, I wrote one of the Star Trek Continues ones, or co-wrote. Yep. I script doctored one of the Star Trek Continues ones, and then I wrote the one for Randy, the Hospital Ship Marie Curie one. And so
yes, so you've done 3 different series now, which is really cool.
Yeah,
Now,
I wrote a couple more that never happened.
oh, okay.
That for whatever reason. But that's the job.
Yes. Now you mentioned several conventions. You've got something coming up, I think this weekend, right? Something
Yeah.
fairly big.
Yeah, it's Labor Day weekend in Atlanta. That's Dragon Con.
Yeah.
I have been going to Dragon Con since 1989.
Oh, really?
Last year was the first one I missed since 1989. My dad had surgery the week of last year, and so I could not go. I probably could have gone one day, but I didn't want to leave him.
No, you wouldn't, and you didn't.
Yeah. So.
And how is your dad doing?
He's doing well. He's doing well. He's looking forward to a week without me, I think.
And you stayed with him when he wasn't well.
I don't. Yeah. Well, but now Dragon Con is Dragon Con is a 4-day. It's 4 days. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Labor Day Monday in Atlanta. We get down there on Thursday morning. I guarantee you, it is Monday night. There are people already there. I would not be surprised if somewhere on Facebook there are not already pictures of the Marriott lobby full of people in costumes. I would not be surprised.
Wow.
I would
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
I mean, they do have. There are panels that do start on Thursday nights because people are there.
Yeah.
It used to start when I first started going. It started at like 1:00 on Friday. But there were so many people just milling about. They started doing panels starting as early as 9:00 on Friday because there were people there. And then it started doing them on Thursday. I figure eventually we'll start on Wednesday. But yeah, it is huge. It is, I can't really describe it. It's a little bit of everything. It's not a science fiction convention. It's not a comic convention. I guess it's more of a pop culture convention. And it takes over a chunk of downtown Atlanta. We take over 5 hotels, a mall food court, and 2 convention centers. So that is.
Mark B. Lee, who has been associated with us over the years, he was the MC down there for a few years, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
He was a big deal. You may have run across him, and
it's possible because it is so big and it is so spread out. It is hard to see everything.
I bet.
And I work it, so during the day I'm either at my table trying to sell books, or at a panel. So I don't really get to see a lot of the con. I try to take at least one day and run through like a Walk of Fame to see what actors are there. I may go through the dealer's room once, or the dealer's rooms. There's like 4 of them.
Oh wow!
So yeah, there's a lot to see, and but from a guest standpoint, I'm in the comic and pop art track. I have a table there. It's like Artist Alley. And I have my books and whatnot, and do sketches and all that stuff. And because of the way that it's so big, the people that come into the comic section on Friday may not come back to the comic section the entire weekend. So Friday is comics. Saturday they're going to the Walk of Fame. Sunday they're going to gaming. Monday they're going to whatever. There's so much stuff.
So it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
Yes, and so yeah, I get there on Thursday, but it doesn't start till Friday. But so every day, it's almost a brand new group of attendees coming through each section because that's the day they've carved out for your section. They're doing the other stuff on different days. That it is because it's so massively huge. And because it's so spread out, my table is on the 4th floor of the America's Mart building number 2. I have 2 panels this year that are in the Sheraton Hotel. The Sheraton Hotel, let's see, if I leave I leave the America's Mart, go 1 block to the end of the America's Mart. Then I go the next block to the America's Mart Book 1. Then I go a 3rd block past the Hyatt. Then I go a 4th block past the Marriott. Then I go a 5th block and then a 6th. It's 6 blocks away. 6 city blocks away. It is, it's a hike. Uphill one way. Because Atlanta kind of does this. I know everybody thinks Atlanta's flat. It's not. It's uphill, then it's downhill. So, but it's good 6 blocks away. And so, yeah, I can't just like leave my table 5 minutes before my panel starts because I've got to go 6 blocks. And, so it's, but they make it work. It's all done with volunteers.
Sure.
I think there are 3 people on staff. It is full time. It is a volunteer run organization, and like we were saying earlier, it's amazing how anything gets done. I'm amazed it runs as smoothly as it does, and it is just, it is my favorite weekend. If I could only do one con a year, that would probably be the one. It's just a little bit of everything.
I was taking a look while you were giving me the locations. I was trying to find it on Google where it is. In what part of Atlanta is it?
It's downtown. It's
Downtown.
yeah. If you look up the Hyatt Regency Atlanta, that's kind of in the middle.
The Hyatt House, Atlanta, downtown?
Hyatt Regency.
Okay, the Hyatt Regency.
Yeah. And then the next block over is the Marriott. The next block's the Hilton.
Oh, there it is. Yes. Okay.
Yes. And then if you turn past the Hilton, go past the parking deck, that's a block. Then the Sheridan's there. The Westin
Wow.
is up. Yeah, the Westin is like 2 blocks from the Hyatt. America's Mart. One of the America's Mart's next to the Hyatt. The other one's behind it. It's massive. It's the most exercise I get in the year.
No kidding.
Yeah, and it's only gotten bigger. When I first went, it was in one hotel. It was in the Hilton, and it didn't fill up the entire Hilton. And I remember thinking, this is the biggest thing I've ever seen. And but the Labor Day weekend in Atlanta is a huge, busy weekend because there's usually 2 or 3 football games. That's right near us too. There's Centennial Olympic Park is right next to the Westin. There's always concerts.
Yeah, it's to the west of it. Yeah.
There's a couple of other events that happen that weekend. Plus, DragonCon has a parade that shuts down several city streets. There's just all kinds of. This is how big it is. NASCAR moved from Labor Day weekend in Atlanta because there was too many people.
Wow.
Yeah. And NASCAR dwarfs the amount of people that are at DragonCon. And because there was just no place for people to stay. So, so they moved.
Wow.
They moved their weekend.
Wow. That's a big deal. I've never been to the DragonCon one. I've heard people talk about it. Who knows? Maybe one day I'll be able to head out there. But no, I just found out today. I have family coming over tomorrow. That's going to stay through till Monday.
It's an experience, and it's one too. You really have to plan a year in advance before you go because you want to buy your tickets early because they get expensive.
But you're an invited guest, correct?
I'm a guest. Yeah.
Okay, that is. Cool.
I'm there working. I'm there working, and so I don't get out and party as much because I have to get up early in the mornings because I have to be at the Artist Alley by 9:00 to open my table up so that when they let people in, and so I have to get up, walk the few blocks. So I have to get up early. So I can't stay out till, and I'm not as young as I used to be. So I can't stay out in the hotels, hanging out with all the cosplayers and people watching and whatever until 5 a.m. and then go grab a nap and leave. I can't do that anymore. Just too old for that. I have to get at least 5 or 6 hours of sleep. I can't just take the nap anymore and call it a day.
I'm one of those that has to have 8 hours to be happy. If I don't get 8 hours, I'm tired.
Well, 8 is better. 6 I can function. But
no, No, I'm not a happy camper. I'm not sure how Richard does it, but I need 8 hours. Look, normally I will call it. My phone tells me at 8:25, dude, it's time to go to bed, and I do my best to be out by 9 because I wake up at 4, and that's my day, Monday through Wednesday now. Thank goodness. I am teleworking Thursday. Oh, the gods of Kobo were kind to me. So.
Oddly enough, because I work from home, I don't get up early during the week. But when I go to cons, I have to get up early. So most of the time I'm up early is on the weekends. But the last couple of years, I've not done as many conventions. Excuse me, as normal.
Well, yeah, COVID and maybe some health stuff too.
Well, and I also realized that one thing that the quarantine taught me was it's amazing how much work you can do if you're home every weekend. Because a convention, if you think about it, the convention's 3 days most of the time. The day before it's prep, the day after it is rest. That's 5 days for a 3-day weekend. Dragon Con, I'm already there 5 days, and it takes me about 2 to recover. It's and then the day before I'm packing and all that stuff, and it's just it's and like I said, I'm not as young as I used to be.
I hear you, Bobby. I just signed up, and it's not political in any way what I'm about to say, but I'm in LA County, and they're in need of poll workers. I'm POLL, not POLE, people, POLL. So I'm going to work Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. So Tuesday's the day of the election.
It, buddy. You work it.
Yeah, I'm working it, baby. So
work that poll,
I'm
babe.
already scheduling Wednesday and Thursday.
I've already got my dollar bills out.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. And even though I would telework on Thursday, no, Bobby, I'm taking that day because I'm going to be very, very tired. Now, Richard here is more of a comic book maven than I am, and I'm sure he has some things to get in on this. Richard.
Hello.
Stuck up your little finger there.
No, well, he how has Artist Alley changed from when you first started to how it is today? I mean, I was in Artist Alley and conventions in the 90s. And I just think that the internet maybe has crushed some of those little artists, but I haven't been to a con in a while. So how has it changed from when you started to what really goes on there today? And has it shrunk at all, or is it still about the same size?
No, actually, it's still pretty large. It's not just comic artists anymore. And it never was just comic artists. There's a lot of people that are just pinup artists or just locals.
I know that.
What's
but
that?
I'm talking about what?
What's pinup artists?
They draw pinups.
Okay, I'm sorry. All right.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry, but I guess I'm just, do you still have people selling the digest comics or the mini comics in Artist Alley like you used to back in the day?
Some, but not to the degree.
See, that's what I was getting at. Was it used to be a big market because I ran in the 90s. I ran a magazine that reviewed small press, so I was really working small at cons. I'd be set up in Artist Alley, and also I have get our books to review and stuff. But anyway, well, that's why I'm asking.
Well, they still do that, but the technology has changed. They're not doing ash cans that they printed on a photocopier and stapled together. They go and do it print on demand and print a nice looking copy. And so, I mean, yeah, so there's that. I mean, writers are, there, and artists are there, and people, cosplayers are now some of the guests. So they're selling photos of themselves and their costumes, and people are buying those. And
I can be without that, but go ahead.
Well, but I mean, the biggest change that I've seen in terms of conventions is not so much of guests, because you're still going to get, they're still going to bring in professionals, they're still going to bring in locals, they're still going to, some places are selling Artist Alley tables, so if you can afford one, you can get one. Some are, you have to be a guest. Some are, there's different ways that they determine, depending on the size of the show, who they bring in as a guest. And that's cool. And so you get a nice diverse group of styles and whatnot. Like Dragon Con, I know there's usually some painters because they're comic and they call theirs comic and pop art. So there are people there that make statues. There are people there that design toys. There are writers. There are artists. There are that kind of thing. The actors are generally somewhere else, or they're in they have their own hotel that they're set up in. But all of those guys are there. Like I said, there are cosplayers. There are some the voice actors are generally with the actors. But that's not where the big change to cons has become. Cons have become and this is not good or bad. It's up to however you want to say it. I don't, it just is what it is. They've become more of a social event than they used to be. It used to be you were there, you went to a con because you were a comic fan and you wanted to go find old comics, or you were an art fan and you wanted to go see the art, you wanted to go buy some art, and that there are still plenty of people that do that, but there is a large percentage of people that come to conventions just to come and hang out at a convention. So, and there's nothing wrong with that, because that's that you pay your money to get in, you can do whatever you want, and that's kind of where I see the big changes. There's a lot of people there that they don't worry about any of us guests. Guests are not important to them. They go, they meet up with their friends, they hang out, they're taking photos, they're just walking and enjoying the atmosphere. Because really there is no place like a convention. It's a very
so what you're saying, that is because of it becoming so mainstream.
Partly, yeah. But
I mean, it's not, because when you went to a convention, it was guys looking for comics, and the girls that were there were bored girlfriends looking at their boyfriends like, is it time to go yet?
Yeah, but really that was 30 years ago. I mean, it's really.
That's what I'm saying. It has changed, where it's become. Well, but it's become mainstream starting, in this century. It became more and more mainstream. So people go there to hang out. Where, like you say, 30 years ago, nobody would touch it.
Right.
I'm just saying, like you said, good or bad. Is it good that it's part of mainstream, or should?
Yeah. Well, but
is that a casualty of mainstream?
Well, the mainstream stuff has really only been in like the last 10 years or so. I mean,
it started a little bit before that, but I know what you mean, because a convention is not just but it is a social event because you have all those entertainers. Yeah. I mean, I was looking at the guest list for Dragon Con. I'm thinking, how the hell would you get time to see every one of those people? Because
it's impossible.
You got to pick and choose. I mean, I know that Bill Shatner's going to be there, and other people. I mean, but it's still like, okay, you got to pick and choose because there's like 2,000 people. The guests may outnumber the guests. I don't know. I know they don't. But they have a lot of guests.
There's 400 guests. Dragon Con has 400 guests. Now they also have like attending artists who bought a table, but there are 400 guests. So I am
I saw that Rometta Jr. was there too.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
so I am one of 400 guests. And there are, before COVID, there were about 90,000 people came to Dragon Con. I think they're capping it around 60 or 70 this year.
Oh, only 60 or 70. Oh, yeah, that's it.
So yeah, it's you can't, like I said, and there are people that can only do one track a day. This is the day I'm going to go track down the actors, and the actors are not just like us. We're not just sitting at our tables. They have us doing panels, and the actors, they do photo ops and.
Oh yeah, so, I mean it's plus the price for those for photo ops and autographs are they're so. Mm-hmm. I remember when you just didn't have to pay, but now it's like, okay,
but
Bill Shatner. Well, it's some cons he wants $250 just for an autograph, and then another $250 for a picture, and then another $500 to hang out with him for in his private whatever. It goes on and on and on.
Well, it's become a business. I remember 30 years ago, where the guests you got at a con were people that were not actively working. You were getting actors who weren't on a show. I have gotten to know people over the years, and I have seen actors turn down major movie roles because it's Dragon Con weekend and I can't work that weekend because I will make more money doing the convention than I will doing your movie.
Wow.
Oh,
Wow.
So, it's, yeah, especially if you're in that league, where you're a well-known actor and your fee is pretty high and the photo fee. And again, they don't get all of that. I mean, they still have to pay the people that set them up and all that. But I mean, yeah, it can get pricey. And the big thing in the last several years has been where groups go. Like the entire cast of Star Trek The Next Generation is doing all these cons together. So you want to get a photo with the entire cast, you're dropping $1,000.
Wow.
Exactly. Yeah, because everybody's got to get a piece of the pie.
Yeah. Then you're dropping $30 a pop for them to sign it. So I mean, it can get pricey. But again, if that's what you're there for, enjoy.
Yeah. Well, it's your money.
there
You
are
do what you
people-
want. I'm
yeah.
just saying that.
Yeah. So the people are planning. You plan a year in advance what you're, and so it's so yeah. So you kind of just have to know what you're going for. But it has become more, like you said, more mainstream. It's more of a business. But they are still giving the audience what they want.
Yeah, I'm not saying
Audiences-
it's good or bad. I'm
Yeah.
just saying that how it's evolved. Because
Yeah,
I went to Chicago Con in early '90s or mid '90s, and Next Gen Cast was there, and hardly anybody paid attention to it.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to, you just
Wow.
walk up and get all their autographs. And I know that Chekhov and Uhura were there too, and they were just walking around having chatting. I mean, they would walk through the crowd. I mean, today you can't do that without bodyguards because
Right.
how
Right,
times it because back then they were just all by themselves. I mean, you could just walked up and said something to them. But everybody knew not to do that. But still, you know what I mean. But,
Yeah. Right.
But now they have people that are around them, or whatever you want to call it, their posse.
Because more people are coming to the cons.
Right.
And like I said, I mean, it can be a very big social event where there are several thousand people that will come to Dragon Con this weekend that are not there to buy anything. They're there to hang out. And
I mean, that's one of the. I mean, there are some people that I know that run convention. That's a big complaint about cosplayers. They don't buy anything. Well, maybe not the con runner, but the people the people that sell stuff. Well, they're just here to
but
run around. But that's the way it is.
But yeah, I mean, I'm in that. I mean, that's the position I'm in. I have a table. I'm there to sell stuff. It's not. I don't blame the convention if nobody comes and buys anything. The convention can only offer me the spot. It's up to me to either have something somebody wants, or let people know I'm going to be there. That's why I heavily promote when I'm going to do things, because it's like, this is where I will be if you want to get something. Or
yes, thank you very much.
Yes, but if
it's heavily promoted.
Yeah, but but yeah, it can be. I'm sure I know there are people that get frustrated, but I mean, I don't know. It's one of those weird things. I mean, it's like, I don't want, if that's what they get out of it, then I'm happy that they're there, and a lot of what I do at a con, because as we all know, you can run out of money quick at a con. I use conventions as part of my marketing promotion. Even if I don't sell a lot of stuff, I've given away a lot of bookmarks, or I've given away a lot of business cards, or I've given away a lot of postcards. And next week, I'll see a little bump in sales. It's like, oh, somebody I met at the convention got paid, and who said they might want to check my books out. So I don't know. It's hard to. I mean, like I said, it's like anything else. I know what I'm getting into when I do a convention. I go and it's hard to say. I can't go into a convention and say, if I don't make X number of sales, this convention sucks. I can't do that, because you never know. You never know when you're going to have a great selling time or a bad selling time. And it could be me, I've certainly had days where I am not on my A game. and I don't sell stuff, or I could have sold stuff maybe another day when I was in more of the right frame of mind.
Oh.
So it's weird. You know, like I said, it's just,
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, and I know what you mean. After a while, it gets tired just watching people walk by and stop over
Mhm.
here and like, hey, I'm over here, and
Yeah.
I know what you mean because a
Yeah.
lot of people, a lot of traffic goes by, and you're trying to pull people, get people to come out of that that line and come see you.
Yeah, and I'm not a hard
I don't.
seller anyways. I can't.
I mean, you
I
know,
mean, I just can't. I know friends. I have friends that are good at the huckstering. They can, you know, they can hard sell and get people, and I'm just not good at it. So, you know, but yeah, it's, you know, but there's a lot. But there's also a lot of
but
other stuff that I get out of the con that's not.
well, yeah,
I
because you probably meet up with friends and stuff while you're there that you don't see all the
Yeah,
time. And once
there
a, I mean, so I mean,
there
yeah, you do. I mean,
yeah.
when you go there, it's like, okay, if you have that badge, so it makes you get, you know, that's when you get everybody acknowledges you. You're invited to stuff because you have that badge,
Mm.
and
Yeah,
that's
because
your
there
ticket to everything.
right, because there are people I only see at at Dragon Con every year. You know, there
Oh.
are
Right.
people I only see at conventions. So there is that bit of catching up with people, and wow, we haven't seen you in a, you know, since wherever, and so yeah, so there is some of that too. There's good catching up with people, good networking. I mean, sometimes you set up business meetings at these things because you get a publisher or two that's there. You go and introduce yourself, or I mean, there's a lot to, yeah, I can get a lot out of it. The writers take over the Weston Bar at night, so all
Oh,
the
that must
writers,
be entertaining.
yeah. So we hang out at the
Reason,
Weston
yeah.
Bar and
Yeah.
chit chat, and it's just a glorious time hanging out with other creative people, and so yeah, there's a lot of that goes on there too that's fun, but yeah, it's probably like I said, it's one of the busier cons. It's probably the busiest con I do. Um,
What other cons do you do then?
in the last, I don't know, probably in the last 10 years, mostly I stick close to the South just for monetary reasons.
Right.
Um, you know, I do Charlotte. Um, I've got one in Chattanooga in October. I did Biloxi, Mississippi this year. Um, I haven't been to Florida in a while. I used to do Florida pretty often. A lot of stuff in Georgia, Tennessee, just kind of Alabama in this little general area.
So you stay below the Mason Dixon line.
Yeah, and like I said, mostly it's monetary reasons. I also, you
Right.
know, I look
Right.
after my dad, so unless my dad
Right.
feels like traveling, I don't, you know. But you know, I've traveled further for them. I used to go to Chicago every year. I used to go to New York and Los Angeles and Long Beach and San Diego
Oh, so
and
you've been to San Diego
oh yeah, yeah.
Comic Con, yeah.
Yeah. But I also stopped doing some of the Comic Cons for a while because I wasn't doing comics, you know. Um, in recent years, I've gotten, you know, in the last couple of years, I've gotten more comic work than I've had in the last 6 or 7, um, which is great because I love doing comics. So, but it is hard. I mean, it is hard for me to stand out in a place like San Diego. I certainly can't afford the table or the booth. So I can go and walk up and talk to people. There's a good networking thing. And New York's kind of the same way. I can't really afford the table, but I can go and do it. But it's just, yeah, it's hard for me to lay out some of that money because ever since I started doing this full time, life is feast or famine. You know, you're either really busy and you make a little money, or you're not busy and you have no money. And
Right.
so,
Well,
yeah,
I that's a good question. I mean, that's something I didn't know if we'd be, you know, because you
yeah,
went further north to do Pittsburgh or Detroit.
yeah,
Detroit would be quite a ways because that's
yeah.
almost. I mean, that's. But you know, Pittsburgh has a lot of guests.
Mhm.
They're like a Dragon Con, but not as big.
Yeah.
If you know what I
Well, and
mean.
there's different kinds of cons too.
Yeah.
There are, and not just in terms of size and all, but like some cons, yeah, we'll have you as a guest, but you still got to buy a table and a badge,
Oh,
you know,
wow.
Really.
or you know, oh
Wow.
yeah, it's like yeah, you can come. Tables this, you get, but it's like great. So a badge comes with the table. Oh no, you'll still have to buy your badge, and I'm like, you know, then you have
Wow.
to go.
Yeah.
Then you start weighing, is it worth it for me to do this one?
Right. Yeah.
Or
That's an added expense. Yeah.
yeah, Then there's 1-day shows, there's 2-day shows, there's the whole weekend shows. There's, I do a lot of 1-day shows. I love 1-day shows. I can drive to it, do the 6, 7, 8 hours I'm there, drive home.
Right.
Those are fun. Libraries. I do a lot of library shows where I go, same thing. I drive, do the day, drive home. Um, you know, so things like that are cool. Or 2-day shows where I only have to do a hotel one night, or as
Right.
opposed to 2 nights, 3 nights. Or if I've got friends that are sitting up there, we can split a room or things like
Right.
that. So there's different sizes and different kinds of shows. I do here in Atlanta. There's a little 1-day show they do 4 times a year. It's a Sunday afternoon from like 10 to 5, 10 to 4, something like that. I go do the day. Some Sundays I don't sell anything. The next one I may sell a bunch. So it's one of those things. I don't sweat it. I'm not out anything. Plus I get to go see everybody because I've gotten to know all those people over the
Right.
26 years they've been doing that con. So there's a lot of friends there. Again, same thing. I'm still marketing and promoting. The books are there for people to see. There's always good bargains to be had because it's more. There's a lot of discounted books in the comic room, and so I shop, and then several of us will go out to dinner, and so we make a day of it. So there are those kind. Then there are the kind where it's like, oh, this is a little bigger con, so I'm putting more of, what am I sell? How I know I've got this much space, as opposed to some of the smaller ones where you may just throw out a few things. You may not
Right.
take everything to every show, that kind of thing. So yeah, just different shows in different areas. In recent years, other places have gotten in on doing events. They're not necessarily conventions, but I did a makers fair at a winery that I did pretty well at. And so that was fun. I've done library shows. I've done bars have gotten in on it to where, like, on a Tuesday night.
Oh, really?
Yeah, on a Tuesday night, which is a slow night for them,
Sure.
they bring in 3 or 4 authors, and they expect,
Wow.
hoping we'll invite people, so they'll make a little money. They put us in the back room. We do a little reading. We sell a few books. I've done that in bars. I've done it in restaurants. There's a place. Well, it's about an hour or so drive from me, but it's a barbecue place, and they do the same thing. They put us in the event hall for when they do big events.
Oh, you mentioned that to me about the
Yeah.
barbecue place. Yeah.
So
Do
there
you
are a
get
lot.
you get free food?
No,
Probably not.
That sucks.
no. You still you get a free opportunity to talk and up your book.
Right. Yeah. I
You
didn't
buy-
think
you-
you did, but I just want. I
Yeah.
it was a
Yeah.
stupid question, but
You buy
free
dinner.
barbecue
and-
would have been nice.
Yeah, you buy dinner and they get a cut of your sales. So I mean, yeah,
So
It's,
it's a win-win for them.
yeah, and but see, these are all the things that go into all these decisions about where I'm going to set up about things. Because do I have to pay for a table? Okay, I have to weigh that cost. How far away is it? Oh, it's a 3-hour drive. How much is that in gas there and back?
Right.
Then it's
Plus, if you gotta stay in a room that.
Yeah, your hotel room. Yeah.
Plus, I have to buy all these books. It's not like I get these books are given to me. I've paid for them. So, about half of what I sell it for is I've already spent to buy them. So making a profit is tough already.
Yeah, because
So-
you're in so deep.
Yeah.
To begin with.
Yeah. So I love doing things like store signings, but I don't do as many of them because I come out of it breaking. Actually, I come out of it in a hole.
Really?
Right. Right.
Because I bought the books, I drove there, I get there, the bookstore wants their 40%. I got them at a 50% discount, plus I paid shipping. Then I give them 40%, and there's maybe 30 cents left over. That doesn't cover my gas.
So,
I mean,
yeah,
Bobby, if I may ask, Barnes and Noble here in Montclair, it's about 2 miles away. They're now starting with local authors.
Hmm.
Are you familiar with that program where they have them show up there like
Sure.
maybe on a Saturday?
There's one of two ways that those work. If you are with a publisher, where Barnes and Nobles can buy books from the distribution chain and return them, they will order the books, put them in there. You'll sell whatever they don't sell, they'll send back, and then later you'll get your regular royalty from the publisher.
Okay.
That's one way. If you're not in all those distribution chains, like if it was me, I only have 1 or 2 books that fall under that. So I would have to bring my own books, just like a convention. I would bring my own books, set up, sell. They would still ring them up and sell them. And then they would take their cut, and a week or 2 from now will send me a check for my cut. So, and there are no royalties.
2 authors.
Yeah, and there and there are no royalties on that because you don't get royalties on books you sell yourself. Actually, technically, even to your publishers, books I sell at show conventions and book signings don't count. So they don't count as sold because the publisher didn't make any money on them.
Wow.
So I mean, it's a there's a lot of
that's right.
So if you get them at a discount from the publisher,
mm-hmm.
But don't you sell them at cover price, or do you give them a discount?
But if I get it at a 50% discount, just for $10 book, we'll just say it's $10. I paid $5 a piece for it.
Right.
I paid $5 to ship them.
And you probably pay tax.
Then I paid taxes. Then I got in my car and I used gas to get to where I'm going. We hadn't even factored in any of my time yet. I go there. Right. I set up. We sell these books at cover price for $10, to which I've already spent $6. So there's $4 left. The place doing it gets 40%. That's $4. I am there. What is left for me is the difference between $5 and $6 that shipping didn't eat up.
Right.
So, but again, it's one of those things. You do it, that going in, and you go, okay, does my doing a book signing here? Yes, I'm not going to make any money at that moment. But is it a store that will lead to other people buying the books? Or will it put me in a position to put my books in front of people that have never seen them before? So sometimes you do it for that. It's part of the marketing. You're looking for future things. But you can't do it all the time because, you will go broke and you can't run a business that way. And these days, being a writer is running a small business. And so, it's just tough. But again, it's all part of the business, and you kind of have to know that going in, and you find ways to navigate it and learn it. And not every bookstore wants 40%. Some take 30%. I've done some signings where they're like, we don't care. We don't want any of it. We just want you to come in. And so it does vary. Most of your big, if you do Barnes and Noble or Books A Million, they're going to want 40%. But if you do,
I didn't even know it worked like that. Where they would actually, I was like, well, why? I didn't think. I thought that. I guess in a way, I thought, well, the author just being there is there to bring in customers, and that's where
maybe once upon a time,
but not anymore.
Even, it's again, it's all a business. It's all the business.
Well, right, but I guess I didn't think about the bookstore wanting the piece of the pie.
No, whenever you talk to these places, it does seem they act like they're doing you a favor, and they are. Sure. But I like to think we're doing each other a favor.
Okay.
But I mean, even Amazon does it to us. I mean, Amazon takes a huge cut. I print some of the stuff I do myself. I print through Amazon, so there's a base price, and then I decide how much I want to make, and then Amazon tells me how much they're going to make, and so I have to make the books a little higher than I want to sell them for because Amazon's going to take this, and I have no control over that.
Right.
So,
I mean, I've heard sellers complain about what Amazon does because I've been seeing some. If you want to save money, order it from me direct because Amazon's going to charge you. Mm-hmm. Well, you have to charge so much for Amazon to make any kind of money because Amazon's prices whatever they charge. I don't
Yeah.
know anything about it. I never checked
Well,
into it.
yeah, and if you order a book from Amazon, just go and order one. You can get it in 2 days. When I order books at my cost, it's a month before I get them, and I pay shipping. I don't get free shipping on them.
Jeez.
So there's a lot of, I mean, so yeah, there's a lot of, but again, it's one of those things you just have to learn. Oh, if I'm going to order books, if I need books for Dragon Con, I got to order them in July.
Wow.
Wow.
And what does Amazon charge percentage wise?
Well, it depends. Well, if you're buying them yourself, it's not a percentage. It's a set price based on number of colors, number of pages, and paper size.
So that's the printing aspect of it.
Yes, yeah. So if I order them directly from Amazon, the author copies, I pay that cost. Now, I don't know if Amazon tax anything onto that. I just know they tell me this
Right.
book is going to cost this much.
Okay. I guess that's okay. So I didn't. So yeah. But the multicolor book's going to cost you more than a black and white, which
Right.
is
Different
probably
color-
why that makes sense when I saw the one book only have one color. It's like, okay,
Mhm.
that's as much as I can afford. So
Right. And what the size, if you do a
Right.
6x9, that's standard. But like I do these smaller paperback 5x8s, those actually cost a little more because they have to cut the paper.
right.
So I have
And
to pay for that extra fee to cut the paper down to
so
size.
so it also determines how many pages too, right? Is that added into there?
Yep.
So how much do you think a book average? What is the average of a book then that you get? What is that average price for you from
Oh,
Amazon to get a book done?
that's tough. There's a lot of variables.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables.
That's why I said
Yeah.
average. I didn't say.
Well, like Evil Ways, which is a 100,320 page book, probably costs me $5 or $6 plus shipping. Now we sell it for $15 through Amazon because
Right.
at $14.99 I make 75 cents off of each sale.
Holy mackerel!
So the difference between $5 and $50, so Amazon makes almost $10 off that.
That doesn't even seem fair. But I guess that's them.
Yeah.
They can do what they want.
Well, and they're the one printing the book, and they're the one, putting the book.
So they're
together.
doing the DIY then part of it.
Yeah, and they're selling it. So then they're charging you for selling it for you. So so they have all their fees, and again, it's just one of those things going in, and you don't have to use Amazon, but I mean,
no, but I guess the same thing. I mean, you might make 75 cents, but if they get to know your work, maybe next time they'll buy the book directly from you. And do you make a little bit more on the Kindle edition?
A little bit, but I mean, it's still the same thing because you charge a lot less too. I mean, it's a percentage. I think on like a 99-cent ebook, I probably make about 40 cents.
Okay,
Something
so
like
you're
that.
making 40%, which is
Yeah.
a little bit better than the hard
Yeah.
copy.
Yeah, so there's percentages based on the size and the price. Like you can't, like if you do a 99-cent ebook, you can only get a certain percentage. If you make it $2.99, you can get a larger percentage by doing this and
Right.
So there's a lot of that, and and then they get their cut for selling it through Amazon and all that stuff that just kind of comes with it. And
well, how did you come at the 99-cent price point?
Depends on the size.
Amazon wants to sell everything at 99 cents, right?
No, actually, they don't like it when we sell things at 99 cents.
They don't make enough money. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why I asked the question. I mean, why don't you at least go $1.99?
Well, that's still under theirs. $2.99 is where they like it, but it depends on the size. For like the Snow Shorts, which are short stories, we sell those for 99 cents because I'm not charging $2.99 for a short story. But you put the three of them together, you're now at like a novella length. I sell those for $2.99 as an ebook, and $8.99 for the paper. It used to be $6.99, but paper costs went up during the pandemic.
What a surprise!
Ink costs went up during the pandemic. Shipping costs went up during the last few years with gas prices going up.
Amazon does not eat those costs. Amazon passes those costs on to me.
Well, yeah, of
You know,
course. I mean, that's just
so
fair. But
yeah,
I'm just,
so yeah, so I have to look at it as I'm setting it up, and it goes, here's your base price. What do you want to sell them for? And then I type in, here's what I want to sell it for. And they go, okay, you'll make 45 cents per sale. And I either go, okay, or I change what I want to make. But there's also as a businessman, I also know that I can only go so high because I'm not famous. My books sell because I'm out there, promoting all that.
I
So
see. I understand that. I
yeah,
just wanted to
but
know how Amazon works
right,
with you
right,
or against you to get stuff done.
right. Well, my fee. What I'm saying is I can't. I can only price a book so high before I price it out of the audience. Going, that's too much for that book.
Well, that's why I
Yeah.
asked price point wise.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think you can get away with $1.09?
Well, you can't. I mean, again, it's one of those things you just have to know. Okay, I'm
Well,
going to set this, and you can change it. I have set books at a price, and nobody touched them. And I go, okay, I need to lower the price a little bit. And I lower the price, and they sell. Conversely, I've had books that I said, I'm going to sell this book cheap, the ebook cheap.
Oh.
Nobody touch it. And one of my publishers says, it's $2.99, make it $4.99. Made it $4.99, started selling them. I don't understand it, but that's
because people think if you charge more money, it must be value added to it. That's how we're programmed. Yeah. I mean, if you see something, it's just like it is like when you see something priced low, you go, oh, it's going to break in 2 weeks or so. But when you charge more money, oh, it must be quality because this man or this publisher wants, $4.99 as opposed to $2.99.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking that since those costs went up, have you risen your cost to match that?
On the novellas, yes, I had to go up from $6.99 to $8.99 for the paperbacks.
Okay.
I have not raised the ebooks because, well, let's face it. I mean, none of those things really should affect the ebooks.
They shouldn't.
Yeah,
they should.
But maybe you should raise those to $4.99.
It's I'm
just kidding. I'm just kidding about that.
But like some of the books, like the novels that have been out a while, they're at $14.99. I don't want to charge more than that. It's
Well, no, you don't. Are these? Let me ask this question: can you get these books from the publisher or anywhere else besides Amazon, like the hardbacks?
Well, sure. I mean, books are sold wherever you can sell them, but I mean, for the ones I do myself, it's either Amazon or me. But I mean, I have an online store. You can buy them directly from me. And
so, have you thought about doing Etsy?
I thought about it. It's just
okay. You thought about it, and that's where it went.
It's not that it's a bad idea, but I'm a one-man band, and the more of that I do, for me to take the time to run an Etsy store, I'm not writing.
Right. I guess I'm thinking more as a marketer since that's what I did in the past. But I
have to juggle all of those things.
Right. I understand.
Because what I don't do the covers. Now I have people that do covers. I work with editors. That helps. But I'm doing 99.9% of the marketing. I'm doing almost all of it. I mean, I'm doing all of that stuff. So I have to schedule my time to be able to do all of it. And there are times when it's like, okay, I've got to stop and write something. So, yeah.
Right. So, yeah, I get that. And right now you're writing that comic book series, right? For the
yeah. Well, I'm so because I have so many things on my plate. I generally am working on 4 things at one time.
Yeah. Well, it seems like when you write a comic book, you write everything, and the artist goes from that.
Most of the time, yeah.
But have you ever tried to do the Marvel way, where the artist sends you pages and then you have to add the story to it?
Well, that's how I did my first comic, but most people don't work that way anymore. It's kind of an outdated. Not a lot of people work in that fashion. Like even
So,
Marvel doesn't
well,
work in that fashion.
well, I know, but
And,
that's what Stan Lee always talked about.
yeah,
And the thing is,
but,
I know even Stan Lee did that because he worked on so many comics, and I also think
mhm.
he was also too lazy to keep right all that stuff.
Well,
That
he was
and plus
also
he had Kirby and Ditko, so you
well, but
couldn't really go
he
wrong
was
with that.
also he was also running the company. I mean,
Yeah, that
there was a
too.
lot of things there. Yeah, and he also
But
knew.
that's why he had that done because
Yeah,
he didn't have the time to write a full script. He
yeah,
just
right. He also knew that Kirby could go. You know, you can give him a plot that says, "Okay, the Fantastic Four fight God." Great, that's 3 issues.
yeah, or
You
Kirby
know,
would come up with his own plot and throw things.
right.
But anyway,
But
I just want
yeah,
to know if I
but
didn't know it was out, so I didn't know it was like outdated. I thought maybe it was
yeah,
still used in some
no,
instances.
there may be some, but for the most part, no, not. I can't think of anybody that still does it that way.
So
But
you ever
like,
get a complaint from an artist saying that he's pigeoned in since he has to go by your script?
nope.
Okay.
Nope, because I always tell my artists, because most of the time when I'm writing a book, I have no idea who the artist is going to be. So I write a full script explaining what's going on, but then I always put a note that says, I'm not married to this. If I say 5 panels and you tell me it works better as 6, I'm probably going to defer to your judgment. You know,
So you
we're
do give them latitude.
we are a team. Yes,
Okay.
if something works, if you have a way that works better than what I suggested, then yeah, let's make it work.
Well, that's
So
the best way. Yeah, that's about
yeah,
sounds like the best way to work. That way, both parties can be happy or at least compromise a little bit. And
yeah, because like the Hawk of New York that I'm doing, Randy is the artist and Randy owns the character. So he and I sat down and just like this on a video conference, sat down and we talked out what he wanted to have happen. I threw some ideas at him and we back and forth. I made a lot of notes and then I went off and wrote it. And then I sent it to Randy. Randy read it. Then we got back together and he goes, I like this. Can we change this? Or so then the two of us together then took that and made it
right,
to
right.
work, So there's different ways, but like the Crimes in Time, I have no idea the artist. I've never met the artist. I've never spoken with the artist. So if the artist, when he gets started, comes back with questions, I've made the same offer to the publisher, tell them if they want to make changes. But the publisher's already approved the script too. So there's only so much latitude you've got there.
So
And
that
then
would have to go through if you wanted to make a change. You have to go through you plus the publisher, then, right?
right. Well, and a lot of times once the publisher has approved the script, there's no it's and it's the same with a book too, like a novel. There's no big change. It might be you might do, ooh, I misspelled this word, or crap, I gave the character the wrong name. You
Yeah.
fix that. There's no, I don't like the way this scene worked. Let me rewrite it. That doesn't
Oh,
happen
right. Once it's
because
done, it's done.
yeah,
Okay. So there's no turning back.
no,
Is what
you're
you're
pretty well into the process at that point. It
okay.
becomes
Well, that's what I thought when that's
yeah,
the first thing hit when you said it was already approved by the publisher that it's set in stone,
yeah.
basically. That, but at least so.
Right. There in those instances you get things where it's like, you wrote 5 panels. Can I make this 6? As long as you're not changing the story, you're just splitting a panel. You can do stuff like that. You can't go, hey, we should add a sequence here where this no, you can't do that. It's like, because
There's
one,
yeah, I know what you mean. No
yeah,
plot changes and all
yeah,
that.
where
Yeah,
are you going to get that extra page? Can I make this a double page spread? I'm like, well, where are you going to get the extra page? The publisher said it's a this many page book.
right.
There's
They're not going to
no
add. They're not going to add pages for
right.
your
Well,
for your splash page or
right.
3 pages.
Well,
Yeah.
plus you with comics, you write in a certain way that you don't do with novels. With novels, you just write the story and people turn the page and keep reading. If you can't do jump scares and things like that like you do in a movie and a comic, unless you make that the page turn reveal. So
Right.
so any big surprises need to be on even numbered pages, because if you're on page 3, you turn to go to page 4, there's your surprise. You don't show the killer on page 3, because while they're reading page 2, they can already see it.
Yeah, unless there's an ad on the other page.
Yeah, but again, that they
I
don't
mean,
really they don't really do
I'm
that anymore either.
I know.
So,
I'm.
yeah,
That's where my brain will go back to the old
Yeah.
days where you did 2 pages, then it'd be a page, but still,
but if you
but then
even
still,
look at
page 3 would still be where page 4
Well,
was supposed to be.
yeah, if you look at those two though, that page reveal is still the same because there's an ad, you turn it, then there's another ad, so you still
Right, double ad. Yeah.
yeah, it's yeah, that's still there. But yeah, they don't really do that anymore either. So you just plan for those things.
Right.
I want this. We want to see the monster. The monster's got to be on an even numbered page.
Right.
The
Right.
T
Yeah.
the T-Rex
Okay.
coming out of the woods in Jurassic Park. If you're doing that in comic form, that has to be on page 2, 4, 6, or 8. Because you
Well, that
want
might be a spread too in the middle of the book.
right. That's something that they turned the page and that's where you want those things. So
Right.
you have to
Right.
plan those, and so you and your artist have to be in sync on things like that. There's a reason that those things are there, and I'm giving them a lot of information that the reader never sees. Because most of what I write in a comic script is for the artist. The artist reads it, and most of it they translate it to the page. And so a lot of the words I write are never seen by the audience.
Well,
So
no,
it's
of course not, because you're describing the scene and
right.
other stuff.
And also, you're going into what they're thinking, and why they're sometimes it's why they're doing what they're doing, or
Huh.
So
you give them the motivation too.
Yeah, and so I'm explaining a lot of that because your artist, because when I don't know who the artist is, I write heavy. I explain everything in the dialogue I feel that needs to. One of the wonderful things that can happen is the artist then goes in and draws this character with an expression that makes you go in and go, I can lose this dialogue because the art sells it. I don't need to go, why are you smiling when there's, you see them smiling, I don't, your artist can add those layers that makes it to where you don't need dialogue for those. Or I love a great sequence where there's no words, you don't get to do those very often, but if you get to an artist that you and the artist really click, you can do these things where nobody talks for 2 or 3 panels, but it's still riveting what's going on because the artist is really telling that story, and you can get a lot out of body language and how the characters are standing, what they're doing, how they're moving, the mood of the house, where the shadows are, that kind of thing. And the colorist can add stuff to that as well. The colorist can lighten it up or heat it up, or there's all those tricks that you learn.
Well, plus the pencils can add the proper shading to give some kind of
Absolutely.
And let me ask this: I mean, in a future show, could you just show one of those sample scripts that you're talking about to give the people? Because I think that would be a nice thing for fans to see that what actually an artist sees to go by. Because like a behind the scenes thing.
Yeah, I actually have a little what do you call it? I did these things at libraries for kids where you see the plot, you see the script, you see the pencils, you see the inks, you see the colors, you see the letters of the same pages, and you can see all the steps. I have a presentation. That's what I was looking for.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, it's getting a little late here.
I just thought that other people. You've explained it, but to see it is something, something.
Let's set that up. I'd be glad to come and show that. We could show that as a share screen and walk people through the steps. Yeah,
I know
I
that
didn't
is
realize
awesome.
that.
Yeah,
I'm going through. Actually, I have these in the covers. This is when Star Trek returned back in 1990 to comic books. I have the first 12 right here. And I was listening to both of you, and that's why I went to get my comic books. And you guys are right. Page 2, 4, yes.
Because because your page, we call it a page turn reveal.
Know that. Yeah.
That's your
if you need something striking to happen, and it doesn't have to be the monster leaping out. It can be the reveal of the villain, or if it was a courtroom story, it could be where the prosecutor stands up and slaps the table and goes, "You're guilty." You know, it could be any of those
or
things.
it could be where the guy breaks up with the girl. You
Yeah,
turn the page and find out. Oh, okay. But it could
yeah,
be almost
yeah,
anything. It's what right.
yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing it's the same thing when you watch a movie that has commercials. You know, they end on some kind of little cliffhanger, so you want to come back
Yep.
after the commercials. But usually, everybody still, goes channel surfing anyway. But that's the purpose of it.
I
Yeah, 'cause-
remember what you guys were talking about. Sorry to interrupt on that one, but
No,
I found the issue, Star Trek number 8, May of 1990, and the cover was Star Trek, not Sweeney. And when you guys were talking about that stuff, it ends down here. And I forgive me, everyone, if I'm revealing something. It's just for a quick moment.
Oh, no,
a
not
little
that
trick
one.
I picked up.
I've been waiting 30 years to read it.
Yeah, I
Come
know you
on.
have. It says, "Did you like it?" He says, "No, checkmate." And then he turns it over, and you see the panels. And I remembered that scene where he's like pissed off, and he beat him, and he just, boom, blows it up. I thought that was, I heard you guys.
Right, because if you would have had that on an odd numbered page, it loses some impact because you can see it coming. Because while you're reading page 2, you can see page 3.
Yeah.
There's no surprises there. So there's a lot of tricks that we, not just as writers, I mean, all creators, we learn some tricks, like how in TV, like you said, the cliffhangers, or a musical cue can make you know you're about to be sad or happy, or
right.
You know,
that's cool.
in writing novels, I can speed you up or slow you down. If I get to an action scene,
That's what
we go to short, choppy sentences because you read those faster. So now I have sped up your reading without you realizing it. I want to slow you down, big paragraphs, because you read those slower.
Right.
So those are tricks you can learn. You know, there's more. You use more dialogue tags, more he said, she said, when it's just a slow, easy conversation. But if you want that conversation to speed up a little bit, you just start doing the dialogue with no he said, she said, just boom, 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 boom. So there's
you do
tricks.
That same. So you do that same trick with novels too. Like an odd page, you would make sure they turn to page 4, right?
Well, it doesn't work. You don't. It's not as focused there, right? Because yes, you can see what's on the words, but unless you're not reading ahead.
Well, I know what you're saying, but you still want them to turn the page and say, okay,
sure.
But I mean, same thing with the end of a chapter. You've got to make them want. Okay, I finished chapter 1. Do I want to go to chapter 2? Because I mean, here's that thing that drives you over here.
Oh yeah, so, I always in the chapter on some kind of, if not like danger cliffhanger, some.
Well, it could be just a kind of.
Oh no, here dialogue, we go again,
or a plot twist coming up or something. I see what you're. That makes sense. That makes sense. I like it.
I've got a plan. Trust me, I've got a plan. Oh man, every time she says that, one of us gets hurt. Trust me, let's go this way, and then something explodes. Let's go to the next chapter. So there's all that.
I got you. And,
I like to start chapters with how the point of view character is feeling or what they're doing. Jim had never been so upset in his entire life. That's line 1, and you can go from there. Bobby couldn't believe he had stepped into the trap, or there's those kind of, and so it's just little things to grab your audience's attention, and you don't have to do those. I mean, every writer does things a little differently, but I found those work for me. So yeah.
Okay, and here's the thought that I had, and I don't know if it'll go over okay, but the next time that we do something, come in as Robert. That way we all have ours in our names.
But unfortunately, I mean, I could do that, but unfortunately, my name is not Robert.
Oh, well, then I'm sorry.
We call that a bitch slap in my world.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
When I was in college, I had one professor that refused to call me Bobby. So I just started refusing to answer him. He would call me Robert. And I kept telling him my name is not Robert.
And he goes, if your name's Bobby, Bobby is short for Robert. And I just refused to start answering. And he got upset. And he's like, you know, you're going to get in trouble for not participating. And I pulled out my birth certificate. And I was like, read that.
Oh my God, you actually did.
Oh wow, that's even a bigger bitch slap. So
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Yeah,
So,
I
and-
take
yeah.
mine back. Sorry, Richard.
It
Yeah,
took
that's
him-
better.
It took him a while, but he finally was like, okay, fine, I'll call you Bobby.
Yeah,
I
of
was like,
course, the
no,
professor.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the presumption.
It's okay. I've had people call me Robert before, and I've answered. You know,
Yeah. So I guess it's up to you
it's-
if you want to participate in that little
Yeah,
thing that I thought of.
um,
But I'm sorry, I presumed.
yeah,
Well, you know what
So-
happens when you assume.
yeah. But no, I'm actually, and I'm a junior as well. My dad's the same way. My dad's name is Bobby Nash, and so yeah, it's
Okay, I'm fine. I
yeah.
just assumed, and I got in trouble. So that's
Yeah.
what happens.
But
That
I've
could,
answered.
that could be an end of a chapter. He never
Yeah,
got big
I've-
slapped like that before, and then go
I
on
have
to the
answered to a lot of things.
Yeah.
You know, and stuff like that. You know, you say that a lot of stuff like that does make its way into stories. You know, I love, you know, having characters that know each other well refer to each other as something other than their name, and
Right.
having to explain where that nickname come from and why it's there. Because we do that. I mean, my dad. I don't think my dad calls anybody by their real name ever. You know, and because he's come up with new names for them. And yeah, I mean, even
Huh.
like every time someone in our family has a baby, my dad's like, great, here's their nickname. And it's like, you know, they were born like 3 hours ago. He's like, don't care. This is their nickname.
My grandfather was that way on
Yeah.
my father's side. Yes.
Yeah.
Paternal.
So, but stuff like that's fun. And those are those little character touches that can, you know, and you know, that's where the write what you know comes in, you know. I live around that sort of thing. So I'm used to people, you know, with what a name stands for, or, you know, because nicknames are not just names. I mean, there's a reason for nicknames, you know.
Well,
Right.
In a lot of
there
cases,
should be, yeah.
there should be.
Sometimes
There's,
there's,
you know,
yeah.
and a lot of people have multiple ones, you know.
Oh my God,
Um,
I did at work. Oh,
Yeah, so I've, you know, depending on who I'm around, I've got several of them, you know. And it's just something. It's like, oh, these people call me that, and I just, you know, it's just what it is.
Like when you go to a different clique that you're in, you might have a different nickname there. Or
Yeah.
something. Yeah, I know. Yeah, because you have. But yeah, I know what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
I was called most recently at work, about 10 years ago, I was called Doubtfire. The reason why I was called Doubtfire is I know it was a slight, but they called me Doubtfire because of all the stuff that I did at work.
Mm.
And this new supervisor that was coming down from North County to work at Central Yard, I was so thrilled. He could have named me anything, I would have taken it, because unfortunately I had a moniker. I was the AB, or just AB. I could not shake that one, and that one got under my skin. And that one was administrative bitch.
Oh God.
Oh God, I
Yeah.
could not shake that one at all. That one got under my skin. So when this new
Yeah.
supervisor came down and says, "Oh, you are Doubtfire," I was like, "Oh yes, I love you."
Yeah, and
Oh, my God.
sometimes they can start out as a slight, but they grow
Oh,
to become
right.
something else, or you know.
Yeah,
And,
you should have became the AB.
Oh no, I
Already
unfortunately
already
was the AB.
Well, then why were you so mad?
And you know
they
what?
still-
That one stuck
But
for
you,
like
but then you
8,
should
9
like called you that.
years.
Yeah,
I
but
couldn't
you should
shake
have
it.
been able. Yeah, okay. But
I couldn't shake
Doubtfire. Why did he call you Doubtfire? What did you doubt?
Because of all the stuff that I did in the office, all the different services, all the offices I supported, and it's kind of like what he does in the movie. You know, he's juggling so many things. So I know it was a slight, but I loved him for it because I could
was-
handle Doubtfire.
It was all the voices he was doing while he did those. Yeah.
what the real guy did. But I was so grateful because I could not shake AB, man. I could not shake. And it was a male dominated world. So for me to be called the AB, that was no fun. But yes, sometimes they have reason, and it's really cool.
Mhm.
Thank God I dumped that one. But let me tell you, it is really exciting, Bobby. I know we still didn't touch on a lot of stuff that you have upcoming. And what did we miss? Important things. We did not have it. Oh yeah, you see, that was
I don't
real.
know. What have we talked about?
We talked about a lot, but there was some other stuff that you have right now that's going. Why don't you let us know about that? And then the reality is, gentlemen, I'm the one that's going to be short on time this time. And Bobby, you and I, it's 3 hours easy.
Yep.
So
Still not
we're
the longest
about to hit that
podcast I've
mark.
done.
I'm sorry?
Still not the longest one I've done.
Oh,
I
no,
did
no.
one-
I'm saying that you and I
Yeah.
always cross 3 hours. I
Yeah.
don't think that's just us getting started.
I did one of these once, and they were like, "How long do you want to stay?" And I was like, "I'll stay as long as people are asking questions." 5 hours later.
Okay. I think we did 4 hours.
Yeah.
One time. I don't know if we did 5 hours. No, but
That makes for a long day, because especially with the time difference, because it's midnight here. So.
yeah, and I had to be cognizant of that, Bobby. And then I want to thank you, because we did open up some times, and we do 6, 7, 8, 9 our time, and it makes it easier. I remember when we were starting at 8 p.m. So people in the East Coast were 11. That was a team player, man.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond team player. But now we're starting at 6, and we've opened it up to weekends and everything too.
Yeah.
So
Well, you're starting.
Well,
at
cool.
6.
Well, there was one project I haven't mentioned yet that's coming. I wrote this thing a year or so ago for an anthology called The Devil's Due, which was I wrote a short story called Dante's Tenth, which was this was a horror anthology about deals with the devil, how there's always a price to pay for making a deal. And so I wrote this story, a short story about this Western boom town called, yes, that's the new cover, actually, that they just put a new cover on it. And I wrote this story about this town called Dante, and that they find gold because of a deal they made. And, time's up, get time to pay it. I wrote this little short story. It was fun. The publisher liked it so much, they asked me to write more. So coming in October, they're going to release Dante's Tenth as a standalone book. It's going to feature my short story plus 2 new stories from Dante to make it book size. And then that's going to be called Dante's Tenth. And then almost in the same month, yes, there's the covers. Dante's Showdown is a novella that's going to come out late October. The publisher, Valhalla Books, is going to do a Kickstarter as a way for people to pre-order them. That's going to start Labor Day.
Okay.
Well, make sure you give us a link so we can put it on a later show, because I think Roger will want to do that.
Hey, yes, so actually we will, folks. I got to tell you, Bobby's website, number one, is active. I mean, look, I always kid around with other people when you make mention of someone or you help them out, you do whatever. It's, as they say, well, you're intellectually blowing the individual online. I got to tell you, forgive me, Bobby, but for all the publicity that you have done, oh my God, I've never been blown so much in my life. You have done us solids. So I'm telling people, look, see us, because we copy and paste. It's easy. We share. But go to his website, man. There's Bobby, all kidding aside, and I didn't mean to embarrass you on that one, buddy. I'm sorry. But, dude, you're active. And it is cool.
I try.
You are. And I know I don't share every one of your posts, but I do my best. I love sharing your posts the minute I see it.
Thank you.
Since I'm feeling a moment of insecurity, am I one of your better sharers?
No.
Probably not.
You're up there, but there are some that share a lot or share daily.
And that's good to know, and I'm glad.
Yeah.
So, all right.
I do have people that share daily. But yeah, but those are going to come out in October. The first 2 books. Each one is a standalone story, but they are part of a bigger narrative. The Valhalla Books is putting those out. I just got edits today on the first book and did those, so I should be getting edits after DragonCon for book 2.
Is that the other one that's not mentioned here, or is that Dante's 10th?
Dante's 10th is book 1. Dante's Showdown is book 2.
Okay.
So those will both be out sometime in October.
Wow.
We're doing the Kickstarter.
they're coming out regardless. But we're doing the Kickstarter. We've learned that if you do a Kickstarter is a great way for people to pre-order a book.
Yes.
While we're talking about it, go ahead and you click it. You've pre-ordered it. When it comes out, we're going to ship it to you. And so that works. Valhalla Books is the publisher. I want to also mention Jeffrey Hayes of Plasma Fire Graphics, who did the covers. I love those covers. They're so gorgeous. And
I'm sorry I cannot make it larger. I apologize.
that's
Oh,
okay.
wait a minute. Oh,
That's what she said.
tiny bit more.
Yeah. But
Shut
it's
up. Shut up.
yeah. So Valhalla Books, the plan is, as long as people are buying them, the plan is they would like to do one Dante book a year.
Oh, wow.
So book 3, I've already got a loose plot for book 3. It'll happen in October of next year. And that's the original Devil's Due cover there. And then you saw the one earlier was the new cover.
Yes.
That one there. That's also Jeffrey Hayes doing that one. And he's the guy that did my Snow covers and my Sheriff Myers covers.
Oh, yes. That's why the name is familiar.
Yes. And so, so the Devil's Due is on sale now. It's been on sale for a while, but the new cover is on sale now. And then, like I said, the Kickstarter's going to launch over the Labor Day weekend. And I'll talk it up at Dragon Con and then share more once I'm home. And then, but those 2 books are written. Yeah, so those 2 books are written. They're just, like I said, the second one's being edited. And then, we'll do one a year. As long as people are buying them enough to make it worth doing them, And so I'm looking forward to that. That's fun. There's more Hunter Houston books coming out. Book 3 should be out later this year. Pulp Reality 4 should be out later this year. Lance Star Sky Ranger novel should be out this year. I'm not sure when the comics will come out because after I write them, it's got to go through the art and all those processes. Sure. So it may be next year on those. And then if I can get my act together once I finish all of those things, there will be at least one Snow out later this year and maybe Sheriff Myers, but more than likely Sheriff Myers will roll into early next year.
But you will not pull a George R.R. Martin on us, will you?
Well, no, because I end every story. Each book has an ending. The next book is just another story with those characters. There's some things that might carry over, but you get the whole story. Yeah, it's
his is 20 years now.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
So it's I mean,
by the way,
I can say that I have taken long periods to finish sequels, but I do like to end every story or every book has some kind of ending. Unless up front, the publisher says this is a 3-parter or a 2-parter. I end everything because I hate getting to the end of a novel and reading the words "to be continued."
Hey, Bobby, switching gears completely. I know you write. I know you do cons. I know you spend a lot of time on the internet, and we're eternally grateful for it. But what do you watch on maybe streaming services, television? What is Bobby watching right now?
What am I watching? I'm a big Marvel fan, so I'm loving the Marvel shows on Disney Plus. Okay. She-Hulk is awesome. She-Hulk is one of my favorite characters, so I'm thrilled beyond belief that there's a She-Hulk show. What am I watching right now? Right now we're kind of in that very busy season, so I'm not watching as much. But what is it? Blood and Treasure. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that one. It's on Peacock. Not Peacock.
Oh, no.
CBS All that. Paramount Plus.
Really?
Paramount Plus.
Blood and Treasure, huh?
Blood and Treasure. The first season aired on CBS. The second season went straight to their streaming. It is a very pulpy, modern day Indiana Jones type story, National Treasure-ish type stuff.
Oh, okay.
Quite good. The actors are really phenomenal. It's filmed over in Italy, so there's a lot of really good locations, but they travel around the world trying to solve a problem, and there's historical stuff, and I'm enjoying that one. That one's a lot of fun. Their second season's almost nearing its end, so hopefully it'll come back for more. But I'm loving that.
I do tend to I do binge watch stuff here and there, especially during this time of year when there's not a lot new on. I just started. I'm way behind on this one, but I just started watching Homeland on Hulu, the old Showtime show. I hadn't seen it before.
Oh yeah.
But in terms of new stuff, Only Murders in the Building on Hulu is fantastic, with Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez. Absolutely wonderfully written and performed mystery series.
Bobby, what was that one again that you just mentioned at the
Blood and
beginning?
Treasure.
Blood and Treasure.
Blood and Treasure. Yep, it's quite good. It's very well done. I highly recommend that one. Season 1 was good. Season 2 has been great. But yeah, so a lot of fun there. But yeah, I've been watching that. I do try to pick up stuff like I watched Star Trek Picard and Star Trek Discovery when they were on. Strange New Worlds was good. I loved that.
Oh, I finally advanced. Yesterday, I saw 7 episodes of Strange New Worlds.
Yeah,
I
like that.
I was behind.
Yeah, I like that one. I'm blanking, but I know I've watched a few things. But yeah, this is
Blood and Treasure.
August just tends to be such a busy month for me that I don't do as much. But that's it. Yeah, Blood and Treasure. It's quite good. It's Matt Barr and Sophia Pernis and James Callis, who was on Battlestar Galactica.
Oh right.
Yeah. This particular season, the two of them are they're treasure hunters who he used to work for the FBI, and so and she was a thief, and so they have started a company where they go and try to like rescue treasures that are being stolen and wiped or whatever. In this particular season,
she's cute.
The bad guy who was just there stole this thing called the staff of Genghis Khan, and so they're after hunting it, and so they attacked the Vatican and killed a bunch of people. And so they're trying to get to it before the bad guy does. And so they're chasing leads all over the world, trying to get to it ahead of the villain. And as you can tell from the trailer here, it's very action-packed, a lot of shooting. Had a wonderful little, a couple of guest stars in the last episode. Lindsay Wagner and Mark Valley were both in it, playing former CIA agents who were living out in the jungle. Oh, it's so just good action adventure-y stuff. I highly recommend it.
Are you watching? And thank you. I'm gonna check it out. It's already now on my list.
Yeah.
Are you watching the new House of the Dragon?
I have. Yes. Actually, I watched episode 2 today while I had lunch.
What'd you think?
I'm enjoying it. A lot of the stuff that now I was late getting to it because we didn't have HBO at the time. So I was late getting to. I binge watched the first 7 seasons of Game of Thrones back to back. My brother bought them for Christmas with his Christmas money one year. He went out and bought all 7 seasons that were out at the time because 8 hadn't started yet.
Right.
And so after he watched them, I watched them, and I was like hooked. And then I had to wait like 2 years for season 8.
Yeah, we did.
And then as much as I'm enjoying the new one, it's familiar. I'm not surprised. Like the first one was, there was the will they or won't they show us dragons? Are dragons real? Is it, it took us a while to get to that, to see an actual dragon. But now we know it's there. We know they're real. I'm not surprised to see the dragons. I know a lot of that stuff. So they haven't done anything that surprised me or shocked me yet.
I agree.
So even though I'm liking what they're doing, they're still treading familiar ground. So I'm waiting for the episode that really just startles me or surprises me.
Fair enough. Well, Bobby, look, we're doing a program every Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific time where we're going to review the episode and then prep for the upcoming one, which goes at 6 p.m. You are the talent. You are the star. I humbly say you are more than welcome if you ever want to chime in. It's Sunday, 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. your time. And then we're going 50 minutes, and then we're like, okay, ending, so everyone can go watch it. I've got to tell you, I'm stunned. I know I shouldn't be doing this, but wow, we are very happy on the numbers. We are being blown away. Are you going to watch the Rings of Power?
Yes, probably we'll give that a shot. Now,
Yeah.
that starts, I think that starts this coming weekend, so I will be late
It's
getting
the
to
first, I believe.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Dragon Con, I'm going to miss a lot of stuff over there because there's no time to do that while you're there.
With all the streaming
yeah.
services, regular television and cable,
Yeah.
it is tough.
So, yes.
That was a great segue. Talking about dragons and then going to Dragon Con.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good segue there. I like
Yeah.
it.
Too bad they don't have any like House of Dragon guests. That would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be nice.
But it's yeah, I love good shows. I love getting into them. I like all kinds of different shows. I like a good crime thriller. I like sci-fi and all that kind of stuff. So I'm enjoying that.
Just seem really varied. I admit I am really into the sci-fi and maybe fantasy, but I'll like a good comedy every now and then. I'm a huge hardcore fan of Scrubs and Futurama.
Nice.
I love Scrubs, man.
I don't think I've seen one or two Scrubs. I've never seen Futurama. I've never seen an episode of Futurama. Not for any reason. I just haven't.
Yeah, if you're ever going to watch it, start with episode 1.
Yeah,
there's an actual story in Futurama.
Because there's a lot of things where people are like, "Why are you not watching that?" I was like, "I just don't feel like it,"
And time.
Yeah, that and a lot of times, like I said, this show Homeland I'm watching, it ran 8 years and it's been off the air for a few, so it's a little older, but I'm just now getting to it. I'm just
wow,
it's just
the first 7 years of Game of Thrones. Wow.
Yeah, so watch them all back to back. I remember getting to the end of season 7 because 7 is shorter than the rest of them,
and then 6 or 8 is shorter than that.
Yeah, and so I'm thinking when I get to this big event, where the wall comes down and they're I'm like, oh man, what's going to happen? What do you mean I got to wait 2 years?
Yeah, it was rough.
But I enjoyed Game of Thrones. I thought Game of Thrones was really good. It had its moments. I did not. I know I'm in the minority. I did not hate the ending.
I didn't either.
Because people are saying she's acting so out of character, but you know what? If you watch the show, everybody that went up against Daenerys, that she said, you either do what I say or die, and she kills them. I don't know why they were surprised when she gets to the end and she says, "Do what I say or die," and they don't do what she says. I don't know why they're surprised when she killed them.
They just expected something else, which was a setup near the end of 7 where aunt and nephew. A wonderful moment.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean,
So, Bobby, you missed Hodor when that broke the internet.
I saw the actor. I saw the actor at Dragon Con after that was a thing, and all these people were doing and I didn't know what any of it meant.
Oh, so now you saw it.
So I get it.
Sunday night and Monday morning, it broke the internet. Hodor.
Someone did a book, a novel, that's just nothing but the word Hodor, but they formatted it so it's like paragraphs and dialogue and it's nothing but the word Hodor, and it's a thick book, and they sold it, and people were buying it and getting him to autograph it.
That's funny. I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know who did it. I don't think it was an official, like the show did it. I think some fan just did it.
Yeah.
And probably made a fortune, because it was such a funny thing, So.
It was very well done. I know that. I think it was maybe the 6th season where they were north of the wall and they got their butts handed to them. I think it was at Hardhome or something. And that's where we learned the king can bring the dead back to life and form the army. I'm like, oh man,
I remember talking to my buddy Mike, and he had been watching the show since it started. He knew I was binging it. And so every so often he goes, "So what are you thinking?" I'm like, so this is a zombie show? I said, this is a show about zombies? How come no one has said that at all? I probably would have been here quicker.
Yeah, you know what? We missed out on that one. I was all right with it, with the ending.
Yeah.
I was actually good with the ending of Battlestar Galactica.
Me too. I saw it coming a mile away, but yeah, it didn't bother me, and it was, and again, even though people didn't like it, it fit the narrative they had been telling from season 1. All of this has happened before, and all of this will happen again, and they made that happen. I mean, that was the ending. Was, oh yeah, we're about to repeat it again.
And you know, that was Ronald D. Moore, right?
Mhm.
Holding the National Geographic.
Yep.
At the very end. I actually was like this close to meeting him in Solvang, the only bookstore in Solvang in California. I am walking through the bookstore. I'm like, I turn around and tell my daughter, I'm like,
yeah. Well, you know, and look, just to, again, with this whole bringing things full circle, he was one of those guys that got his start because of the Star Trek open submission.
The bonding.
Yes, he wrote. That was his first sale.
Spec script. Yes.
Yeah,
and
I remember.
Wonderful storyteller.
Yeah, I got the Bible. I did send off for it. I met a guy at a con who gave me the information of how to get it. I don't remember his name. But anyways, so I got the packet.
Yeah.
And I was in school at the time and working 2 jobs. And it was one of those things, like I said before, I can't do things without having an actual reason.
Yeah.
And even though there was a reason, I couldn't make myself focus to get it done because I had other things that needed to be done. And I never finished a script. Yeah.
That's my script. That was the one I submitted.
I started 2 of them. One of them was
too.
Yeah. One of them was quite awful, but the other one I liked the plot. And years later, I tried to pitch it as a Star Trek novel, and that didn't work either. But
really, that's a shame.
Well, I don't have an agent. That pretty much knocks me out of any.
Okay, and that's why I never tried.
Novel. But
mine was entitled "Today Hasn't Happened." What was your first one entitled?
I don't remember what I called the first one, but I do remember the second one was called "A Better Mousetrap."
Oh, because my second one is "We Will Never Forget," and that was a Voyager story.
My second one was a Voyager story.
And to encapsulate it, my story was before they met that Captain Ransom.
Mm-hmm.
I had that the Voyager discovered a ship not only out of place but out of time. It was the USS the Sullivans. That was an old berth. No, not an old berth, but those original ones. Mm-hmm. The ones that had the big old like ball and the 2 pylons. Mm-hmm. I forget. I guess it was an Intrepid one. That fell into a black hole and ended up in the Delta Quadrant.
Well, I always thought they missed out on something because
they missed out on a lot of Voyager.
Well, in the lead up to Voyager, they set up Voyager in the TNG and DS9 beforehand, and in the DS9 episode, they mentioned that many ships were lost.
Yes,
in that area, and we only ran into one. It's like there should have been something, but no,
I agree.
My second one was called "A Better Mousetrap," and I had this idea of the opening teaser, which is them, the Voyagers shooting through space, blah blah blah, something's happening. They get an alarm, something's going on. I don't remember how I wrote it, but it's like something's there, and they look on the. It's just nothing but space. And then we cut to a shot from outside, and the ship's flying toward the camera, and behind it, space just opens up. And there was a giant cloaked vessel that was just huge, and it opened them up and swallowed them and closed up, and they were now trapped inside. And this thing was it was a space Roomba going through space, just grabbing. I couldn't use that then because Roombas didn't exist then, but it's basically it was just grabbing stuff up and taking it back to wherever it was come from. But it was on such a long voyage that civilizations had built up inside this thing and
Oh,
they were
wow.
all at war because there's no food, there's no, and so they're constantly fighting over everything. And then they did a similar story somewhere down the line where they were trapped in a void and that was happening. Apparently I
Oh,
had a good
yeah,
idea.
in the fifth season.
I
Yeah,
never sent it in, so they didn't. It's not like I think they stole mine or anything. But
I
I just that idea of space just opening up, and suddenly there's a rectangle there where you can see inside of, and it just
that's a
I just
shame you didn't send it in because that is a creative concept.
yeah
Yeah.
yeah I just I was I was still very young and still I hadn't quite developed my style and I hadn't quite gotten the work ethic for all that. Although I
He
hadn't.
mistakes me and Richard. He's calling you man.
Ah,
Gentleman.
yeah. So
Hi,
so
Eddie.
yeah, but I have enjoyed what little screenwriting I've done. I would love to do more. It's just it's hard to squeeze that in because I've got all these other deadlines. I did write an audio script. That was pretty cool. Um, for a project that'll be out probably next year. The publisher was doing I did some short. I adapted a couple of short sci-fi stories I did into full cast audio dramas,
Oh,
and they've
wow.
released one of them called Midway, and then the other one is called Just Another Saturday on Outpost 9, and that'll be out October, November, and then next year they were doing a thing called prequels, and they wanted a 15-minute lead up to the beginning of Snow. So I wrote this thing, which is the 15 minutes before the Snow series starts. So, and Snow starts with a bang, so the audio ends with a bang.
Wow, that sounds cool. What a nice connection.
Yeah, so that was fun. I'm curious to see who they get to play all the characters, and well, there's really only 3, but four characters in it. Yeah, so I'm curious to see who does what, because it was really cool hearing Midway because I didn't know because it's filmed overseas. Excuse me, it's recorded overseas, so I had no involvement in casting or any of that stuff. So hearing it was I heard it like the audience did for the first time, and it was just it's always a really cool and it's an odd sensation hearing other people write, saying stuff you read or performing stuff you wrote. I got the same thing watching the Star Trek fan films I wrote, seeing
Wow.
those characters put those words, say those words, and I go, I wrote that. It's an odd experience, but it's very cool.
Oh, hell yeah! I I would imagine it to be cool. Being a frustrated writer myself, I've done stuff. I rarely ever tell that I do have 2 finished scripts. I have them, and I just, hey, hey, I did it. I know what it takes. Oh my god, the first one I did in 3 months,
Mhm.
just in 1992. Today hasn't happened, and it was a play on the one word that in the beginning of the 4th season, when they're doing the Romulan blockade, and Sela meets up with Picard, and she says, "You don't want to ask me about that, But and there's so much more about how she is who she is,
Mm-hmm.
and how she crossed over from the other. So my storyline was, look, we know that Kirk has gone back in time using the going around the sun, the slingshot. Well, I've always postulated that was people didn't know how he did it. It was a secret. Well, the Romulans find out, and they start experimenting near a binary star system, trying to duplicate as well. And the Federation finds out, and they've got to take out this black op, unit before they actually maybe alter everything, destroy the Federation before it even begins. And that was basically my story. It was, I guess, it was a SEAL Team 6 operation with the Next Generation. But the whole thing was, it was a 2-part episode because I felt that I could write a better 2-part episode than what they had done at the time. I'm not gonna say anymore because who knows? Maybe one day I'll post it. I don't
Yeah.
think I'll get in trouble if I post my story
Nah.
because I'm not
As
getting
long
money.
as you don't sell it.
Right. So I intend to do that one. That's really enough about me.
Yeah.
Bobby, I gotta tell you, all the stuff that you do, everything that's on your website and Amazon, it is incredible the amount of stories you've written and what you're still doing. I'm proud to say I did get Devil's Due. I am
Thank
gonna get the others, and hopefully tonight's episode does give you a push and you get some purchases because other authors have told me that yes, they do get a bit of a bump, and I'm like, hey,
Well,
is
yeah,
that
because you know.
so there has been, Bobby, in the past when you've been on with us?
Sure. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome.
Getting out
All
and
right, makes me feel better.
Yeah, because like I said, this is part of the marketing thing. Because you know, and it should be one of those things where we should be helping each other. Hopefully, people that I know have told I'd be on come to listen. Like Ryan,
Oh,
who
well,
was
I'm
on
sure they
early.
do.
And
Bobby,
was
I've learned that oftentimes, and sorry to cut you off, I understand that the audience isn't always here,
mhm,
but they see it after the fact.
yeah,
I'm being blown away by the House of the Dragon numbers. I mean, I'm stunned.
yeah,
But over time, each episode that we do, the numbers go up forever,
yeah.
and it's
And it's
gratifying.
like tomorrow I'll post, hey, if you missed us live last night, here's the link. And so
I
it's because not everybody can do it live, and because we live in the world is such a it's such a like with the streaming. You don't have it's not like when we were kids where it was appointment television. You watched it or you just missed it.
yeah,
Those days, that's not a big a consideration. And so I can still start a show that ended 10 years ago, like with this Homeland. I'm just started watching, and it's no problem. I can watch it. It's not like when I was a kid, if I missed an episode of, whatever, it might be because you never knew if it would get rerun again,
right.
you know. And
Yeah, in
so,
the '80s, Next Generation, you may not see it because they didn't always replay them.
yeah, yeah.
And
And because the way that one played here, I was working, like I was a teenager and I was working. So
me too.
it played here at like Saturday afternoons at 2 o'clock.
Yes.
I didn't see any TNG until season 3. Actually, I saw the pilot because they did the pilot
Yeah.
on Sunday night.
Yeah, we all
But
do.
then they put the show on like Saturday at 2, and I didn't have a VCR at the time. I was, and so or hell, I didn't even have my own TV. So, but then as I was working, so I eventually got my own TV and my own VCR, and you had to set things. And I remember I would work, and because I worked fast food at the time, I'd be like, I'd set it to tape this, and then I would leave notes for my parents. Okay, at 4 o'clock, go change my TV to this channel.
Yep.
The good old days,
Hell yeah.
and
I still have my Voyager tapes.
yeah,
Yeah.
because there was a lot of because it was,
Memories.
some of my favorite things were things that aired at like 2, 3 in the morning. And although I will say, I think in terms of some of that helped because had it been on Thursdays at 8 or whatever, I might have missed them. Things like Babylon 5 or certainly Star Trek stuff or the Star Trek I probably would have found because I was a fan of the originals.
Yes.
But like Highlander, things like that just these quirky little shows that had they have competed against, regular, primetime viewing would have probably died quick deaths. We got some fantastic television out of those things. And I guess streaming and cable is the next iteration of that because we're tending to get better produced and written entertainment, I think, in those areas.
In some ways, yes. Were you a fan of the new Lost in Space?
I love the new Lost in
I
Space.
did
Yes.
too. My daughter and I watched them. We were committed. And I binge watched the second season in one day and the
Mhm.
third season. That's the only series I've genuinely been watched, and I
Yeah.
enjoyed them both. I was so sad when they ended it.
Yeah,
It's
me
good
too.
stuff,
But I loved it. I thought it was really good. Excuse me. And it's weird too. This shift again. We've gone from now. Well, here's the whole season at one thing. To, oh no, we're going back to once a week again.
Yeah,
And
which is you would think that's how they would do it, but anyway, it is
but
all good.
but it works. But I do think too that there is something to be said about the week to week format when you're excited. You couldn't do this podcast of yours about House of
Yeah,
Dragon in
right.
the way you're doing it, but if they release the whole season in one weekend.
Yeah,
So there is an excitement that is similar to how when we grew up, you went to school the next day and it's like, holy crap, did you see Magnum PI last night? Oh my God, he was,
yep.
or like,
Who shot Jr.?
who shot, that was the one I was just thinking of, who shot JR? Or the 3 months we spent talking about, holy crap, is Captain Picard dead?
Yeah,
You know, um, those were just,
what
I
a
think,
cliffhanger,
yeah,
man.
I think some people don't, especially younger people, don't understand they don't realize what they're missing by the good cliffhangers because they don't get them anymore, or they certainly don't get them to that degree. But
For the most
yeah,
part.
and plus back then too, we didn't already know, like the internet's already going to tell you, Patrick signed for next year, so we know he's coming back. I genuinely had no clue. Is he back?
A lot of people disliked Picard.
Yeah, yeah, because really he doesn't start coming in his own until after that.
Yes,
He really becomes a more
that
less gruff, more
shot
rounded. Yeah.
of that tear coming down that cheek made him human, made him struggle. Oh, it changed it for him. It was very well done.
Yeah. And then
But
that whole episode after where it's him with his brother,
family.
that is, and I think too that also taught them that not every episode had to be the monster of the week. You could tell different kind of stories. And I liked that. I think they told some great stories. I think after a while they went a little too far. Like I think sometimes they would forget it was an action adventure show because we got some. I mean, there were some episodes where just nothing really happens, and and it's one of those things. It's like, yes, you can do all this stuff, but I don't need to see an episode where they're in this hologram town just waiting out a storm and there's no real story. It's just them in this town, And yes, that was a Star Trek plot.
Yes.
I sometimes I think they forgot that the action adventure had to be there. So
Well, it's 26 episodes a year.
yep.
That's tough. That was tough what they used to do.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah,
did
but
it. Wow.
But I think they told some fantastic
Oh, thank
character
God, yes.
stories. Certainly, like I said, with Family, we mentioned Family was good. Duet in Deep Space Nine's first episode with Kira and the Cardassian, uh, the sick Cardassian. Oh my God, that
Yes.
is. And if you think about it, if you take away if they weren't in all the alien makeup, that was just as good, if not better, than any episode of Law and Order. See, any of those that get awards all the time for great writing. I think they just, I think sometimes sci-fi gets overlooked because it is people in costumes and latex masks and but it's but I think that helped them get away with selling some of those stories too. It's like which is weird because we hear all these people now going like, when did Star Trek become so,
Oh,
like what gets me is when William Shatner said it. When did it get so political?
all
And we're like,
people.
dude, you were there.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, look, Bobby, I know that we could spend some more time talking hardcore Star Trek, even Star Wars. I do want to tentatively let you know that Andor premieres on September 21st.
Mhm.
I don't know the exact time, but it's 3 episodes. We will be doing a special Wednesday episode. You're more than welcome to join. We're going to watch it, and we're going to review. That's going to be an Andor only.
Yep.
Because they're
And
debuting 3 episodes.
they are sending Rogue One back to theaters, I believe, right before that.
some people have been watching. Oh my God, Bobby, Rogue One. Oh, that of the new 5 movies, that was mine.
Yeah.
Rogue One.
I love that one. That's a really good one. Yeah.
Richard, did you like that one, Rogue One? Did you watch it?
Nope.
Well, alrighty then. Okay.
Well, I'm not going to lie and say, yes, but
Richard,
no, I did not.
If there is one to watch humbly, I offer Rogue One. It
I
is
mean,
worth
I
your
had
time.
to suffer. I was scared. I had to suffer through the 8, 9, and 7, 8, and 9. I didn't want to keep the streak going along around. I mean,
Rogue One, it's worth your time. I
well,
humbly offer that.
well, now that you've recommended it, I will.
I think Bobby does as well, right?
To me, it felt like closest in tone to the first one, to the original Star Wars.
Oh yeah, someone called it episode 3.9.
Really, yeah,
Genius.
they went out of their way to capture a lot of that feel.
That sounds. I like it. I'll watch it then, since
Yeah.
everybody's recommending it.
And it is one of the It is one of the most badass Darth Vader scenes. It has one of the most badass Darth Vader scenes I've ever seen in it. So yeah.
And there's even a little bit of badassery before that by Darth Vader,
Yes.
but not in the same manner that Bobby is. And we can talk about that on another day. But Bobby, all kidding aside, we are doing Andor on a Wednesday night, the 21st. You have an open invite. Whenever you want us to advertise it, just let us know, pal.
All right. Yeah, no,
It is absolutely awesome.
I'd love to come back, and Richard, we'll talk about doing the comic one. I would love to come and talk comics, how comics are created, and
well, once we get that thing sorted out, I'll
one
reach
is
out.
due. That one is soon.
Well,
right? I think within a month, right?
Well, Peter,
Well,
Big
you know what?
Dog.
If Peter doesn't want to do it, there you go. You got the man of the hour right there.
Well, it's Big Dog's show, not my show. I don't like
On Roger's authority, we have to ask Peter. We have to ask Peter.
I'm just saying. He said next Wednesday or this Wednesday, or is it next
Well,
Wednesday? I don't know.
But he's traveling, so we need to have
I
him
couldn't do it this
rest
week.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to
Anyway,
have him rest up.
I'm talking about Big Dog trying to schedule a show. I mean, what to
Look,
schedule a
knowing
show?
that Bobby is interested, that's enough for me to say, get off your ass, Big Dog.
I mean, I can start my own comic book show if you want me to do that.
Well,
Have Bobby be my first guest.
just reach out. Let me know when. We'll make it happen.
That's awesome. Yes.
But yeah,
It's all
I
good.
think it's about time for me to call it a night.
Yes, I'm trying to get there, and I apologize, Bobby.
All right.
Richard, thank you.
Okay,
Bobby,
no problem. I enjoyed myself.
Yeah,
Bob,
this was fun.
You joined yourself.
I think he enjoyed himself.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm getting old. We're all tired.
I enjoyed
Bobby,
I didn't enjoy my. I
hope you're healthy.
Well, I did. I enjoyed being here. That's what I meant.
And I hope you have a wonderful time at Dragon
Not-
Con.
Not
Let
not
us
in the other way.
know
I didn't enjoy
as you
myself.
write
that
up your stuff
way.
on Dragon Con. We'll be expecting to read up on it, man.
Yep.
Cool. I plan to be posting a lot of pictures to social media. So
Then when you get back and rested, you can come back and tell us your experience.
sound
And then
like
show
a
us,
plan.
and then show us some of that example of a script that you write, so everybody can that presentation. That would be awesome.
Absolutely. All right. Sounds great, gentlemen. Have a great night. Thanks again
You
for
too.
having me.
Thank you. We'll see you guys on the other side.
Yeah.